You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith. Hope you're well. The interview subject coming up for you, it's David Gale. He's from the Australian ska, punk rock and reggae outfit, the Porkers. But that's not why I asked him to come on the show. He's got a new outfit called Karoshi. We talk all about it. Something else about David. I've actually played in a band with him before, so this is the first time I've had someone on the show who I've shared a stage with, so that's exciting. Anyway, let's have a listen to what David has to say about Karoshi and a whole bunch of other topics. Let's go. Pretty interesting day otherwise, but I might have to change strategy with something fairly important that I've got going on business-wise. But apart from that, mate, I've been looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, bloody hell, it's been forever. I don't remember the last time I saw you. Probably one of those gigs that it might have even been that one at the casino that we did that night.
No, we met. We caught up with each other at Living Colour. Remember?
Yes, we did. That's right. That was December the year before.
2018, December 2018. It all only feels like yesterday, of course.
It does, yeah. Living Colour. I mean, any gig of theirs feels like a fresh bouquet, and you can still smell it, because it's just outstanding. But okay, two and a bit years ago, fair enough.
You're one of the few people that get it. That's what I've been saying. Like, with all these interviews that I've done, Living Colour are one of those bands that had such an enormous impact on me, not just as a listener, but as a musician, as you could probably tell.
100%, mate. I still remember the day where I was exactly that moment that I heard Cult of Personality for the first time.
Same here.
There's not many songs where I can pinpoint the fucking exact moment that I was just walking past the TV and just went, oh, whoa, what's that? I mean, I had the same feeling when I was at Coachella. And my sister and I, we flew over to see Rage Against the Machine when they got back together, 2008. 2008, 2007, 2008. And we were just, first day walking past some tents. We were tired, just a long day in the desert. And we heard this music coming out of a tent. And same thing, we both looked at each other and went, I'm like, what's this? And we walked inside. Amy Winehouse. Fucking hell. It was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Just the music and her voice just made us stop in our tracks.
Yes.
And it was just one of those same moments where it just is above, we listen, same as yourself, I listen to Elton John, I listen to Slayer and everything in between. And when something stops you in your tracks like that, very special. But, the Living Colour. But with Vernon, that influenced my playing. It was such a profound thing, it just made me look left, Just say you do solos, but all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but I want to look over here. That's my head's always been over there, but I didn't follow where I wanted to be. And I started doing it because I heard him do it and go, well, it's just right, man. Just go with it.
The other thing too is I've had conversations with all of the guys in the band except for Corey.
Okay.
And for the podcast, obviously, just with the interviewing and the like that I've been doing. It's one thing to love their music, but when you meet them, and they say not to meet your idols or your heroes, but when you meet these guys, and they're such tremendous fellows as well, like you can actually go there and have the type of conversation you always wanted to have.
Yeah,
and
nice.
The personality matches what you always thought you hoped that they would be like. And it just makes you love the band even more.
If that was possible.
But mate, you look fantastic. I mean, look, I hate to bring this sort of stuff up because if you're uncomfortable with it, tell me to fuck off. But
never.
I don't know, it was a couple of years ago that we saw each other. You've lost, 20 kilos or something?
51.
Jesus Christ.
In June last year, I was 133 kilos, and I tipped the scales about 3 weeks ago at 82. Now that I'm off that program of just ridiculously low calories and, just eating not much. No, well, that's a lie. I was never hungry. It was just a lot of the greens and the low calorie things that, make, I basically, the science behind it is that you're turning off your pancreas. You're not producing insulin because insulin plus the fatty stuff clash and it just stores all your shit. So if you're not producing insulin, when you're eating only the good low-calorie stuff, your body has one choice, and that is to hit your reserves. I did 0 days, 0 minutes of exercise in, 7 months and lost, 51 kilos. And fast. I mean, obviously, it was between my best, you'd go from, say, a bad week was, say, 0.8, 0.9 kilos, and then a good week was like a 2.5. And, you just kept doing it and stayed focused. And willpower has always been one of my big strong points. And, now with, got your kid to think of. And,
Yes.
I turned 50 last year, mate, and I've got a 7-year-old. So I need to prolong my years for as long as possible because, my life experiences let me run amok and play silly buggers for a lot longer than, many. I was lucky in that respect. And but now I have my precious little girl. I don't want to miss a moment,
Was there an epiphany for you, or is that it? Is that because I'm you and I are in a similar position, as we know. Like, so was that it? You've got your lovely daughter there, and you just want to make sure you're around for as long as you possibly can be.
Do you know, a couple of years before that, actually it was a while ago, I got to, I split up with my wife and started not looking after myself too much. You get a bit depressed and, just you're out of routine and you're kind of living at home and, it's a lot easier to make cheese on toast than it is to cook up,
yes.
A Thai chicken salad.
At McDonald's on the way home after a gig, yeah.
And, the treat food became the regular food, really. And, I remember seeing or reading about, I think it was Guy Leach, one of the most ridiculously fittest men in the history of the universe, driving his car, heart attack, into a tree, and unfortunately died. And all I could think of was that if you're the fittest man on the planet and it's your time, it is your time. So I've gone, doesn't matter what anyone does, just live life, run amok, do what you got to do, and when it's your time, it's your time. And so that mindset wasn't self-destructive in any way, but it was really it kind of just let me just go out and it reduced my care for a while. But it was probably about 6 months before I started, so end of, say, 2009 to end of 2019. I remember I was at the top of the train station. The train was about to pull out. You just run for the train to catch it before you go. So I ran down the stairs, all of 8 seconds worth of a bit of a jog. And I got in the train and I couldn't breathe. And, you're sitting on the train wheezing in front of packed train, not looking very cool at all, trying to hide the fact that you were sucking in the biggest ones ever. And I knew this isn't right. This is not right. And, I was getting to the stage where I'd walk from the station to work, 15 minutes, and I had to get a locker and have a shower at work because I'd be that sweaty just from I wouldn't pump or anything. I'd just go at my pace, but you're just a fat shit and you're just sweating your ring off. And so you get to work and have to have another shower because you're all sweaty and change your clothes and things and just shit like that. And I couldn't keep up. My daughter's a little firecracker. She wakes up and she's off until she puts her head down to bed. And keeping up with her, riding a bike. And I found myself, can we ride our bike? I'm like, let's play Minecraft and just shit things like that. But,
yeah,
eventually just went, no, fuck it, no. And on Facebook, I had another mate who I'd seen drop some kgs. And so I got in touch and said, mate, what are you doing? How'd you do it? And I said, just this program, blah, 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 blah. And, lazy fairly by nature I am. So I said, how many times did you go to the gym? And he said, a total of 0 minutes. And I thought, all right, I'm on board. Bang, how do I do it? Yeah. Let's go. And he put me in touch with the guy and we had a chat and I cleared the house. So basically I didn't start at that minute. It was more, once I finished my last can of Coke Zero, I didn't replace it. Once the last packet of chips was gone, I didn't replace it. Just pretty much made the cupboard bare and went, all right, let's do it. And that was about mid-July. And to be honest, once I cut out milk and beer and just the shit I would normally have, I dropped like 4 and a bit kilos in 3 weeks just by not having that stuff. But once I hit the program, it was bang, just shredded. So I was in a 4XL polo and this T-shirt is now a medium.
Did you weigh less than I do? You know that? And I consider myself out of shape. Yeah, because I'm about 89 kilos. I'm not, oh God, I hope I'm not obese. I don't feel obese or anything like that. The BMI will tell me I'm way above what I should be. I
The
can
BMI
still.
would say you're obese because the BMI is pretty harsh. Doesn't
It's
give you much leeway.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, according to the BMI, I should be about 65 kilos for my height. Or no,
Yeah.
68 kilos for my height. It's like, it's never going to happen.
No, same.
Um,
I'm in the overweight stage now rather than obese. So I'm supposed to be with my height about 76 kilos. But what happened, because I lost so much weight so quick, I was starting to get a little bit of extra skin. And you see guys over there tummy tied, and they just have all these rolls of skin like Jabba the Hutt. And I thought, if I get to that, I'm going to be as miserable as I was before, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got tiny little bits here and there, not noticeable unless you look for them. I'm going, well, no, this is good. I feel great. I lost fucking 50 kilos. So obviously I've done something right. But I don't want to get to that phase where I just have all those rolls and I can't take my daughter swimming without a big T-shirt and shit because then I feel like a fuckwit. So, I got to where I wanted to, and now it's just about maintaining. So before, where it was every meal was really strict, you got about that much room to move. Now it's a bit more holistic about the week. So, you got your calorie is this per day, but over the week, if you go there one day, then you go there the next day, and just balance it over your week, and that's how you maintain. So, it's cool. It's easy, and now I'm in that mindset now that I want to do this, and being a fairly fussy eater, I just picked the stuff that was on the list that I liked and smashed that out. It was cool.
So I spoke.
Better.
Well, this is the point I was going to make. I've spoken to people who've lost a ton of weight and they hate themselves still from the perspective that discipline has forced them to give up all of the things that gave them so much joy. That hasn't. I can see, man. For people listening, you've got a beer, and the mindset though is king. Okay, so you've obviously got a lot of courage to do this, and I've got to say that because it must 50 kilos, mate. It's got to be. It's for the program that you were on. Where does that fall in terms of achievements and accomplishments? It must be on the higher end of the scale. Do you get that data?
They the guy said, look, there was some people do it and aim for like a 2025 sort of thing, and some people are just monsters and they just smash it out. And the big weight loss that we do, for those who need to or choose to is good. And I mean, you can lose this much and more if you get your tummy tied, but it doesn't train your brain to get those stomach bands and stuff. This way, it's holistic, and it's discipline, and you're training your way to do it, and and the science behind it is infallible. It doesn't not work. And now I know what's good and what doesn't, and it's just automatic now. If I'm walking past a slice of banana bread at Coles, I think, oh fuck, that looks good. Don't need it. Keep walking. Friday night, I went to the Valley to see some bands. It was one of the Punk Fest shows for 4 Triple Z up here. So it was Fat and Flanger Panties and a whole bunch of cool punk bands that I really like. And that was my first beer since June. And I had 4 or 5 or something. And, I even had a couple of slices of pizza that night as well, first time since June as well. So Saturday, just took it easy and, made sure I had my veggies and got back on track and, kept my carbs down. And it's about that balance. And I always knew and always said that I'm never going to stop living and doing the things I enjoy. It's just that the things, and ironically, having that pizza, I remember the taste going, oh yeah, this is pretty cool, this is nice. But now later I'm there going, I can feel the oil in my guts because I'm so cleansed now, but it's just I didn't get the same enjoyment as I would have back then. And when you're a big boy, your food is a real comfort thing as well. So I don't need that as comfort anymore.
Do people recognise you? Because I mean, I know I could always tell by someone's eyes who they are, but to some people, I imagine you're probably unrecognisable from where you used to be.
My mum saw a photo on the Facebook and she rang up and asked if it was me.
Wow.
My mum didn't know. I've mates at work who I meet up for a drink, in the lobby of our office block. They work on another floor, so I'm standing there and they come out of the lifts and walk past me. Oh, fuck, guys, come on. Hello, hey, yeah. So there's a bit of that, and it's kind of funny a little bit, I suppose, and it's fairly rewarding. I mean, that's I didn't do it for the recognition. I mean, I've found that there's been a lot of people who've been influenced by it.
I bet
you can see. I mean, you can see Jared for Subway ads losing all that weight, but you just think, oh, it's just an ad, it's just on the telly. But when you see a mate who's done it, like and you go, well, I know him and I knew him before and I know him now, and clearly he's doing something right. And they might not, it's not necessarily get on the same strict program, but my sister's lost 10 kilos. I've had a mate lost 12 just by cutting shit out or give me some tips. I'm just saying, do this, try that, do this. And I have a bunch of people who just, even if they just drop 4 or 5 kgs, I said, oh, we just saw you and we just wanted to start doing that, see if we could do it. It's like, cool, man. Just it all helps. I mean, I'm not an advocate for fitness. I think that'd be misleading and not right. My lifestyle and all, but again, it's all about those internal requirements. And my internal driver is, my child, just to be able to spend more time with her. She'll be 8 this year, and what it's like. The level of conversation and the shit you can do with a 7 or 8 year old is different than a lot. 3-year-olds are cack, and you have so much fun, and you get to play with cool toys and whatever. But now she talks about her music and and loves. We listen to Frenzal Rhomb and Skrillex and Panau, but we also listen to Bee Gees and all the Disney songs and Beastie Boys and just heaps of stuff. And it's great having that in common, because she's old enough now to do those things and understand how it all works. And it's cool. It's a special time, and I know that this is all for her. And if you've got that genuine focus and goal, it really helps you achieve, I think.
How did your new mindset and lifestyle, how did that link in with the new project here? So forgive me if I say it incorrectly, but is it Karoshi or Karoshi?
The Japanese way is Karoshi, but we just say Karoshi because that's the way it's going to be pronounced everywhere. It was a kind of a driver. We had this running gag saying, look, I always kept saying, look, we're in Europe playing festivals. I want to be standing there in a pair of shorts, no shirt and whatever. So I've got to lose the weight. So, it's just not some big fat shit they're going to throw tomatoes at, So that was always the running gag, is keep going. And that was always in my mind going on, I want to be able to, I've got photos of me playing with Porkers at Soundwave or, whatever else we were doing. And, just a big trunk and jumping around like a big fatty, and that's all fine and didn't affect my playing at all, and always had the stamina, and, I could always play. That was fine. But now it was more about, no, I just want to stand at a festival, play in a pair of shorts and not feel awkward and want to lift my guitar up and cover my, man boobs and shit like that. So, so that was part of it. But I guess, it's going to help stamina-wise. Now that I'm off the program too, there is light exercise. I go for a bike ride every 3 or 4 times a week, just, easy 10, 12 Ks, around where I am, and a bit of a swim here and there. We do. There's a guy here in my complex who runs like aqua aerobics in the pool on a Tuesday night, so I did that earlier with a few of the folks in the complex. It's great. It's good fun. It's just good workout in the pool and a bit of resistance. And I've no plans on turning into a Schwarzenegger or go to the gym and get super toned and whatever. That's not of interest. But just keeping healthy and getting your blood rate up and your heart pumping a bit more to just keep you, fit and healthy and stuff. And it's all to do with that, because I've actually lost a bit of muscle mass as well as part of this whole shred.
Sure.
And so I want to be able to have that aerobic stamina to be able to play the gigs. This music it's high energy, and it's no different to when I play a Porkers gig. It's full on, Porkers is like hour 15, hour and a half when we play. We haven't done a Karoshi gig yet. Because obviously the bands and things like that. But they're the things that with releases coming up that we're looking into. How where do we do that? How do we do that? And hopefully that'll be soon.
I've got to say, I think you're the first guest that I've had on the podcast in almost I think I'm over 600 interviews now. It changes because I've done about 550 podcast episodes, but there's about 100 or so beforehand that were done for print media and the like. But you're the first person I've had on the show that's I've actually played with, I've been in a band with. And And just for the listeners' benefit, you're still in the Porkers, or you were in the Porkers?
No, I still do the Porkers. They all live in Newcastle, so that's a good 1,000 or 900 kilometres away from where I am.
So the Porkers, just for reference, are Australia's premier ska punk outfit. They have to be, realistically, because there's nobody else that's been going that long, and certainly with the profile that the Porkers have got. But how you and I met was through playing in covers. I talk about that a lot on the podcast, and it's just so as though we can have skin in the game and the like, and just keep our chops up. But you're a fucking excellent guitarist, I've got to say. And I loved playing with you because you're just one of those guys where I know I can turn up and I don't think. I'm not, and this is the greatest compliment that I can pay to a musician when I'm playing on stage. I'm not listening to what you're doing. I just trust that you've got it. And that is so fucking rare. And you know what I mean?
It's ironic, isn't it? You know, because if you're playing with someone good, you want to listen to them, but you don't have to because you're just cool. And I think the same. And I've raved about your, I mean, that was a good little unit, you know, that you and I had this, you know, similar everything, and just clicked straight away. And it was delightful to play. And, you know, I was at Mark's place, the other guy in Karoshi, up for barbecue on Sunday night. And, you know, I said, I'm doing this on Tuesday. And I said, dude, should even play bass. He's fucking unreal. You know,
thanks, man.
Talking up there as well, you know.
Thanks, man. Yeah, well, I thought I'd mention it because it's I've talked about it a lot, and sometimes I think because I do have a built-in audience. There's quite a few people out there that will listen regardless of who I've got on the show, and I thought this is great because I know we're not here to talk about that, but I just thought, yeah, I'll bring it up because then it's proof positive. Yeah, I've been out there. God knows I've posted enough videos and images and stuff, but to actually have somebody that I've played alongside on stage. And isn't that so true? And this is the litmus test. God knows I'm so grateful I can have you on just to mention this, okay? I always say the test of a great band member is what we talk about in the breaks. And you and I always talked about rugby league. We just got our beer and we talked about rugby league. And I remembered that because that's that's the barometer of whether or not I'm going to get on with the musician or not.
And it's true too. And I found that some people, if you talk to people who work in a bank, when they're not working at the bank, all their friends work in the bank and all they talk about is working in a bank. And teachers are the same. And teachers are a different breed. I love teachers and nurses. I think they're phenomenal. But you know what I mean? So musos who only talk about music is kind of, it's good, but if you have more interest, you bring that to your music in a way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm a fantasy football addict, you know, the strategy and all sort of bullshit behind it all, and I love all that. But I mean, your team, pretty shit. My team's shit as well. But if it's your team, what do you do? You know,
that's what I keep saying to people. It's like it's not a choice. It's horrible being a Tiger supporter. it's just endless disappointment. It's just forever sadness.
You just may as well get that tattoo of a 9th place on you somewhere because it's always
and
away.
Benji and Robbie, who hang around like a bloody bad smell and won't piss off to God knows whatever, you know, retirement village they need to go to. I mean, Benji especially. It's like, mate, give up the ghost. You've had your run. You're not Cameron Smith.
And yeah, because Cameron played till he's like 803, I think everyone wants to be Yoda as well and prove to themselves and everybody else, I can do it too. You can't. You got to know your limitations. And again, that is it true in football as it is in music. You know, you know what you can play and what you can't. I know what I can do really well and what I can't. And so you focus on the bits that you're good at and go hard on those, and you can either work on the bits that you're not good at or just kind of deviate and twist and change it to your benefit, you know. So those principles are aligned in anything you do, I reckon.
So look, with Karoshi, there are 2 cuts that are in the public domain, and I've had to listen to both, and everybody out there can listen to both on Spotify or Apple Music. I'll let you know it's on there too. You probably put it up there, but if you didn't, sometimes these things, you know, they end up on these streaming platforms and you're like, oh, how'd they get there? But Fire and Become. So let's talk about these 2 to begin with, because Become, to me, sounds like one of the greatest songs Ministry never wrote from when Mikey Siaka was in the band. You know, with your guitar playing, because I hadn't heard that element of your guitar playing before, that almost that metallic thrashy Slayer style thing that you've got going on, which I just adore, by the way. And I think
we didn't really play that kind of songs in the covers band, you know. I think when we're playing Hold the Line, I think was the closest to it.
Hold the Line. What was just as another aside? What was the most unmetal song you and I ever performed in that band? What would it be? Would it be? Did we do that Olivia Newton-John song or the ABBA song? Was it be one of those 2?
We would have done both. we did a variety of sort of it could have been anything. I don't know what there were at the time. We did a John Farnham song. We did You're the Voice that night, or was it Pressure Down? I know we did a John Farnham song.
No, we did You're the Voice. We definitely did. Yeah, we did You're the Voice. And we have done Pressure Down, I think,
Yeah, right.
just within another incarnation of the band. But what's the Olivia Physical? That's right. We did Physical. How unmetal is that? I love playing it, though. I keep saying that to people. I love the bass lines in those cuts.
Some of those tunes, man, you can play old dodgy songs like that, and they're a lot of fun to play. And once you play them, a lot of people think if they're in a covers band, they've got to play it like the record. But I reckon learn it like the record, then play it like yourself and funk it up a bit, or make it a bit heavier if it needs a bit of a drive. Then give it a bit of a chunk and things like that. And but yeah, some songs are just a cack to play. And even if you don't like the song, when you see people out in the crowd arm in arm belting the song out for as loud as you can, in a old band I played when I was younger, we used to play Time of Our Life from Dirty Dancing, and just watching an entire pub sing louder than your PA system. So it's just hilarious, and it's just fun. And a lot of, I mean, I'm a pure, everything I do, it needs to be fun for me, and it doesn't matter what it is. And that to me is fun. Just watching everyone. You can start at the song and you see all the guys in their beers just looking at each other going, "Are they fucking serious?" 10 minutes, a couple of minutes in, and they're all just, singing as if they're in the shower.
You hit the chorus.
Or in the car.
You're so true that as soon as you hit the chorus, they all staring at each other, all these big guys, that have come out to the casino or wherever they might have gone to. They're drawn into this moment, aren't they? And the other one that happens in is Footloose. You just see people just lose their shit whenever we start playing Footloose, and
you can't not dance. You can't not. Okay, yeah, this is true. This is true. Man. Yeah. No. It was good to get the lead out, so to speak, on the newer tracks, and
yep.
That one the reason the name came out, which is basically Death by Working, is the rough translation for Karoshi. And it was mainly because I found, whatever, it was online, one of the musicians wanted ads or whatever like that. And I've been wanting to do like a Prodigy thing sort of vibe, that kind of vibe, since I was in my 20s. And I've just never found someone who did the programming side of it in Sydney where I grew up, never found anyone. And, just happened to look on this musician's website one day and saw programmer, looking for a guitar player to play big riffs over like Prodigy. And it's like, well, hello, that's nice. And from that ad, I would just record little riffy things into a microphone and send it to him. I didn't meet him for about 9 or 10 months, because he was just busy all the time with work, or I had to work or whatever, and that's how the name came about, because we just always work and we couldn't get together and do anything.
Yeah.
But, Mark later said that when I contacted him, that was the last day he was going to have the ad on there, because he hadn't had any response. He was about to pull it down, and it was just that last sort of day when he was starting to think, it's not going to happen, that I've gone, "G'day, how you going?" And boom. So, we are, first time I met him, actually, we was at the Pendulum concert at the Tivoli in Brisbane a few years ago.
Yep.
We both had tickets. So that was good. We got up and could say, "G'day, how you going?" and whatever. And from there, we kind of got to spend a bit more time. So we still kind of have the same collaboration where one of us will have sort of an idea and switch to the other one. He's the programmy, computery guy. I am very basic at those. So I'm more the ideasy guy. So we normally do a couple of things backwards and forwards, and then we'll have a bit of a sesh at his house and work out structure of a song, or, maybe that sound needs to be tweaked, or maybe the kick needs to be matching that rather than that. And so we have a good sesh at his house and nut out the nuts and bolts of a song. And the music for that one was first known as Dark Castle. It was just an instrumental and, various incarnations or whatever. And it was coming on quite nicely. That riff was cool. It was chugging away. It sounded big and
stunning riff. Yeah,
it was just sweet. And I, again, I'm going to give you a rap, sir, because knowing each other quite well and the music we like. I remember sending you an instrumental version, going, "Hey, I've got this new thing going on, and listen to this instrumental, and this is what we're doing." And you've just gone, "Fuck, that sounds great. It reminds me of Insurge a little bit." And I thought, "Oh yeah, good call." And I mentioned it to Mark in the band, and just had a bit of a chuckle. And 3 days later, he's gone, So I looked up Chris from Insurge on Facebook and sent him a message and asked him if he'd be interested in collaborating. We don't know him from a bar of soap at all. Like, I just didn't know him. And it was only just your off the cuff, it sounds like this. We've gone, Mark's just taken it upon himself to send him a message, say, "G'day, how you going? Here's a song. You want to sing on it?" And he's listened to it and gone, yes, I do. It's very nice. And I mean, the timing of it, we find out later.
That is so cool.
It is. It was just very serendipitous, the timing, because he was doing his own solo album, and it was kind of more of a low-key thing. And so, talking to him later, he just said it was just great timing because his solo album was purposely a much more low-level sort of thing. So to be able to still have skin in the old game and be able to, scream his nuts off for a track is a nice sort of counterpoint to the release. And we were very happy because he's still got it, bless him. So
he does bloody have it, man. He actually is sounding better than I've ever heard because I love Power to the Poison people. Still.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true.
Oh, man.
He did a great job, and he just basically screamed some stuff out, just press play and just ad-libbed a few takes and sent them to us. And so we then went, okay, that, cut that. And, there was some sentences that were that, and we took the first half of that sentence and put them with the second half of a different sentence to make the phrasing sort of fit and how it all worked, and put it all together and sent it back and say, "What do you reckon?" And he's going, "Yes, very nice." And so we did record it in the studio, did all the stuff we needed to do. And then we sent it down. He's in Melbourne, so I still haven't met the guy.
How things are done these days.
But we sent it down, and he did the same thing. He sort of learnt the mashed version that we did, and then did that, and then did a few kind of alternate takes as well. And so on the recording, if you do have your headphones on, you can hear the main vocals there, but some of his other alternate versions we've kept, and you can kind of just hear him in the background. So his normal strong rise going on, but you'll hear these little things just in the background. We've kept them because they just sounded really cool. It was very interesting to leave them sort of like that. A lot of people double their vocals to make them sound full, but we didn't do that. We left that, and then we added the different ones, and that's where the colour comes from, we found. There's actually two parts on the recorded version that you can hear on the Spotify that are from the demo that he sent up the first place, because they just sounded a bit more raw and real than when they were redone and recorded with the purpose of the recording. So at the very first, when he just goes, yeah, like right at the very start before the big riff start, that was from his just demo. That was just first time we've heard it, and just didn't match that. So we kept that one, and there's a little bit later on as well.
So you've actually got an album written, though, because you sent me the cuts.
We do. The EP will be end of March.
Oh, EP, yeah.
Yeah, so there's 5 tracks recorded, ready to go. So they were done at Alchemix Studios in West End last year. So we finished recording, October, November, and mixing and mastering, we finished that in January. So yeah, that was cool. That was good fun, just getting in there. And recording's fairly basic because we've done all the work at home and prepped it all, because, apart from the live guitar and any vocals, everything else is, on the pewter. So we could have everything, the arrangements and the sounds. And obviously, for mastering and things, we tweak a few of the sounds and, add the studio effects that we may not have had access to at home. But the recording side was done pretty quick. Just smash the guitars out. I'd do a couple of takes to see which one suits better, or bits and pieces, and then we edit and cut out and add or whatever we got to do. And so it was a good process. It was good. Good studios. Andrew, the guy who recorded it and did all the engineering and stuff, he's a good boy too. So that was that was handy. It was a good experience.
You're riding 2,500 kilometres apart effectively, and I know that's no barrier these days with the Zoom and Skype and God knows whatever other applications there are. But here's the key thing, and I mentioned this a lot too on the podcast. It's extremely difficult, even when you're in one room, to sound cohesive. Everything that I've heard from you guys sounds cohesive, and I'm going to give you a big rap here. I think Goose is my favourite, early days, but it's easily my favourite song that I've heard this year so far. I've had that I've had that on repeat I've listened to it 5 or 6 times. So you sent it through last night.
Hmm.
I had it because you know what? I had a share house in the 90s too, and that's the lyrics that Chris has got on that. I remember having conversations with people like that.
Hmm.
It's like if you're our vintage 40s, 50s, or what have you, and you grew up in the 90s with all the music that we've mentioned in the background. That's autobiographical, that song, for just about anybody who's lived out of home. You know,
Yeah.
didn't have failed launch. We got out and we just wanted to lead life and the like. But to round out the point, how did you write from the perspective that did you send riffs down to him and some ideas and say, mate, what are you feeling here? Like put something on top of this and then send it back?
Get Out of My House, or Goose, as it became affectionately known slang-wise, is that's just me and Mark. That's my vocals. That
That's your
song,
vocal.
yeah, that's me, man.
Jesus Christ. That's incredible,
Yeah,
dude.
it was
I had no
interesting.
idea.
Uh, I can sing. I prefer not to. Uh, I prefer doing sort of backups and the odd Dave Grohl screams and shit like that. But when there's only two of us, then someone's got to do it. But no, that's us.
Dude,
It's
I've got
us
to
two.
correct you. You can definitely sing. I mean, I've been, as I say, I've played with you. I know you can sing, and but dude, that's incredible. And I'll tell you that because I thought that was Chris.
Wow, far out. Cool. Nice.
You know, so I mean,
Interesting. Yeah,
yeah. He's on Become.
that's it.
That's it, and the rest of it. Well, man, and you've made everything gel together so beautifully. Then that's why I
Mm.
thought it was him singing on that.
Yeah, right. Oh, fair enough. Cool. Oh, nice. Thanks.
Yeah.
Get Out of My House is actually a bit of an older song. When I first moved up here, so about 7 or 8 years, I've been up here 10 years, but about 7 or 8 years ago, I was again just flicking through, internet, music mags and that, because I was getting a bit of an itch to meet guys and play, and found an ad for some guys saying, oh, Chili Peppers sort of Incubus band, looking for a guitar player. This was on like a Tuesday. P.S. We've got a gig on Friday. Hope you can learn songs. I've gone, I always like the challenge. So I spoke to them. They sent me the songs, and I think, on like a Tuesday, and then we gigged that all originals, and that Friday night we played. And
Holy moly!
just
Yeah.
good, funky, rocky sort of tunes, and good boys, really good guys. So, eventually we started writing a few songs, and that Get Out of My House was one of those. And so that was like a four-piece, but it was more played, rock. So it was kind of, it was like a mixture of, say, Chili Peppers, Incubus, and Audio Slave. So I kind of had more the heavier riffy things, but tried to keep it funky as well. And that sort of fit in there. But I always thought that song would kick with like a big beat on it. And so when I eventually, hooked up with Mark and we were writing songs, I played him like just a dodgy demo of Get Out of My House and said, oh, this is what I'm thinking. And like normal, I sort of left it with him, and he comes back and goes, how about this? And as always, I'm just blown away and just go, well, fucking that's more than what I was thinking. So thank you again. He has a habit of shocking me and just impressing the hell out of me with things I leave with him, which is fantastic. And yeah, we ended up doing that. And so the actual, the way the song sits is exactly the same structure as what it was back in the day. So we're, verse, chorus, and all the middle bits and that sort of stuff. We've changed. The difference is the melody and the words, except for the Get Out of My House part. All the verses are totally new and rewritten. They're the words and the melody I kind of thought of back in the day, but we had a singer back then and he just went a different way with them. So when it came to do this one, I've gone, I'm going to pull the way I kind of envisioned the words to be. And so, yeah, and it turned out really well and catchy. And like any of our songs, our golden rule, and we've culled some, what I think are pretty good songs, but if it doesn't make you dance, either fix it or can it. And that's just,
so
that is
glad you
our
said
absolute rule.
Yeah.
Absolute rule. And no prisoners either. You could have the coolest riff in the universe, but if the song doesn't make you dance, either fix it or you fuck it off. That's just our underlying principle for Karoshi. And that one makes me dance my arse off, I've got to tell you.
Oh, likewise, man. I think I was cooking for the kids last night, and I just had that song on, and I went, that one's going on repeat. That's what happened. That's exactly the situation I was listening to, and I turned the volume up, man. I've got these AirPods in there, these things, and it's never too loud with these things in, man. But I turned it up, got the noise cancellation on. I'm in my own little world, man, and I'm basically listening to like a song that you've written from scratch, and I got to say, man, I think it is an accomplishment when you can do what you just said, okay, which is make people dance. I've made that point, as you can probably appreciate, so many times, that music is about the swing. It's got to get the women's hips shaking. Even the best death and black metal bands do it. I know that sounds ridiculous, but they still do it. And with the blokes, you've got to get the heel tapping, this sort of thing. You've got to feel it. If you can't feel it, I was watching a YouTube clip last night of Carol Kay, who did about 1 million sessions back in the day, the bassist.
Yeah.
And she made a metronome swing, because that's the art right there. Yeah. That's it, isn't it? I mean, if you've got a beat, boom, 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 you got to figure out how to get that thing to make it so it's like a pendulum. And once you can do that, you're pretty much set, because whatever riff you decide to put on over the top of that, quality riff certainly, but whatever quality riff you put over the top of that, you've got something that's automatically going to connect with people. And a lot of the time, because people are drinking and they're sort of in the moment and they're listening to music because they want a bit of an escape, they don't even understand how it's affecting them, but it's affecting your soul. It's soul music, isn't it?
100%. I fully believe that music is energy, and it's got to make you, and that's what it's there for. And it doesn't have to be prodigy energy where you're just going rah for a couple of hours at a concert or whatever. It's various kinds, but it's just got to have that effect on you. I know that I'm quite different to the majority of people who listen to music just by talking to the general population. I listen to the music. Most people listen to the words. I will only listen to the words if I like the music, and I find it hard to enjoy songs where you've got your basic, every song is G, C, D, or you just hear the same chords, and the words might be interesting, but I can't get engaged because it doesn't have that energy it doesn't have that swing to it to make me go, "Ooh, what's that?" But that's just me personally, what draws me in, And on the flip side of that is that I struggle to write good, proper words, as evidenced by "Get Out of My House." It's kind of a fun song about people overstaying their welcome. So on your bike, son, it's not really a heartfelt experience of a breakup or any shit like that,
But I think the lyrics and the way you're singing matches absolutely the music, though, and that's also an art.
Yeah, it's the fun, it's the energy, you can still be passionate about something if you're not dead serious. It might not be a song about saving the world, but I just want it to be fun. I just want to get people dancing, the way I dance. I mean, we'd listen to it in at Mark's place when we're just sort of working out structures and things like that, and it'd just have, like, after the chorus, it just has that little breakdown where it goes to the percussion thing before it kicks back in again in a verse. And I'd be just standing there, and I'd be up on my feet and moving around and thinking, oh, I love this song. I love this song so much, because I couldn't not move. And, I think I mentioned that before about, other music. And if you can come up with a track that makes anybody tap their feet, swing their hips, move the shoulders, and they can't, they've got to put their hand over their drink because they're going to spill it from moving, then that's the goal, and you want that. And especially, it's the kind of music that I kind of see, you want people to dance and move to and shit. So you want to keep that going. You can't just say, I want people to dance to my songs when you don't dance to them yourself. It's just not going to work. Pretty simple. So that harsh culling rule that we have about danceability 100% or gone is where it is, and that's what we've tried to achieve on the songs. I think we've done pretty well. Not my style. The Come and Fire are probably a bit more on the heavier industrial end of the tunes, and great fun. So much fun to play and come up with and things. And Fire, the first one was great. Again, we came up with the song and we're going, oh, this is great. It's got this real cool drive about it. And I had nothing vocally or words-wise at all. And I thought it'd be cool if we had like a sort of goth vibe to it, someone from
Nice.
that background who'd hear the song and, it's a bit more relatable to maybe that vibe, because that's, what they do. They hang out and the people, that's their lifestyle, where, I walk around in a pair of shorts most days and you can,
Likewise.
people would see through it. People would see through it in a heartbeat. So got online, looked at, musicians' websites, and we found this Russian goth chick. Rang her up. How you going? You want to sing on a song? Send it to her. And she's gone, yes, that sounds nice. Marina did that, and she came in, did all the words. So, same deal with Chris. Played the music and just sat back, said, that's your frame is done, there's your blank canvas. Go nuts. And so all of a sudden she's pumped out these words, and, we said, say something in Russian as well. So she sang a bit in Russian, and it just but that song we really liked because it's really not traditional. It doesn't have a verse. It doesn't have a chorus. It doesn't have a bridge. It just builds from the start to the end.
Narrative structure. Yep, gotcha.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't on purpose going, we want to write a song that doesn't have a chorus. It was just how it went and how it felt while we were doing it. I also got to do my best, Morello impression in the guitar break, which is always fun. But no, that song turned out really well. And with her singing over the top of it as well, that brought something that there's no chance that we could have done, a couple of, white boys. There's no way that we could have, brought that passion or fire or that feeling to, even though the music was kind of feeling that way, just to have those lyrics and vocals done that in such a fashion was just outstanding. And she's done a great job. So, I look forward to, when we get to play up here, getting her up and to sing that song. I still see her a lot. I saw her Friday night at that punk gig in town that I went to. She was there, so that was good. So still in contact with her. That was a good one, and good to get the get one done and sorted and out. And that one was just released as a single, and we kind of, that's why we kept Become separate as well. Being the collaborative tunes, we kind of just had them as their own release. And so the EP, we thought we'll just put our songs that are Mark and I, just Karoshi, and just do it that way. But hoping to have those as launching boards, or people will find those if they like one of the songs off the EP. How it works. It's link one, you go, that's all right. What else they got? So that's the plan. But best laid plans and all.
Yeah, best laid plans and all, because you do have an extremely strong release here, mate. You do. Now, you got a full life though, career, dad. How far do you think you can take this in terms of these songs could go on to lead a life of their own? If this was the next big thing to come out of the States, I'd go, yeah, it is. That's how polished it sounds. So
that's nice.
In terms of how far you think you can take this, and you already mentioned touring, is that what you've got designs on doing?
Mate, I've always had a no regrets rule. The best example is when I joined the Porkers. So I joined Porkers just before my 30th birthday, and I ended up moving back to my mum's house in Campbelltown, which is 50 kilometres southwest of Sydney. So rural. It's a big town, but it's still a long way out of a major city. Because of the touring schedule and things like that, I couldn't have a normal job because I'd be up and down the coast and out, and there wasn't any job that lets you come and go, because as soon as you come and go and you please, everyone else goes, well, why does he get to do it? And so it just doesn't work like that. So at the time I was driving forklifts overnight shifts in freezers, in milk factories and anything that I could get, because I had to try and get casual work for when I wasn't on tour. And then all of a sudden I was going on tour again, I'd lose the job. But I didn't care. I was going, no, I want this experience. And I remember thinking at the time, I don't want to get to 50 and go, I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd had that experience of touring, of writing my own songs and stuff. So there was no way I was going to let any opportunity pass by. I mean, I'm a punter first and foremost. I've been to so many gigs, and I still do, and I still am, but I've been lucky to be in the right place at the right time a couple of times. So, Porkers is one. Now, the synergy that Mark and I have is just outstanding. We just managed to, I can give him the right riffs, and he can weave the right magic to him to get these tunes out and make us both go, oh yeah, that's pretty good.
You're
That's pretty
definitely
good.
you got a good alchemy going on between you guys, man. You're
It is.
turning this stuff into pure gold.
Yeah, it's great. We're loving it and having a good time, and that's so key as well. So if it comes that we get to tour a bit more, while I'm not married anymore, my ex-wife knows that music has always been my first passion. And I mean, when we were married, we were due to go. She's of Chinese descent, so we had a trip booked to China. 2000 end of 2016, early 2017, a couple of weeks, go see the fam, take my daughter over again to see the cousins and things. And then Porker's got a call saying, hey, you want to come over and do some shows in the States? I've already got, and at the time there was a different guitar player playing with Porker's, and the drummer at the time had stuff going on and he pulled out. And so the guitar player went, oh, if he's not going, I'm not going. And they almost couldn't go. And so they rang me up and said, dude, we want to go. Do you want to go? And I'm going, touring America with the fucking Porkers. This is, growing up in a little, in Campbelltown, just some fat kid with posters on the wall. You go on touring America is like one of your fucking bucket list lifelong goals.
Yeah.
And my wife just said, she said, you got to do this. This is awesome. And so, we worked out a way to manage it. So I went to the States while they went to China, and we played with the Bosstones in Boston. It was sold out, House of Blues, and that was so cool. And then we did a run of shows with Voodoo Glow Skulls and Buckenham.
Stunning. Used to love that band, man.
Man, still they were on fire. We did 11 shows in 11 days. Just that was West Coast. So yeah, we started in San Diego and just went San Diego. What was it? LA, Vegas, Reno, Boise, Idaho, 11-hour drive to Seattle for the next show through the snowstorms and shit. That was a rough one. Then Portland and Eureka, top of California. Then sand something, and then down to another sand something, and then ended up in another sand something in Berkeley. That was a great trip. That was awesome, and again, it was. I'm going to make this work, and even in these days, if we get to play and we get to do all these songs, this is why you kind of do it, and you can't go into it half-assed. I mean, I have no expectations from these things. You just do it, one, because you got the music in you, you want to get it out, and you love it. But you kind of also know that if you got good songs or not, and these are good songs and a lot, and
great
they're
songs.
great. And they're the kind of songs that I'd listen to if it wasn't me. And I suppose I'm giving myself a bit of a rap there, so I don't mean to sound facetious or anything, but that was part of what we were going for as well. What sort of music do we love? And you can't play and do things that you love. Again, you're doing the wrong thing. So no, if whatever it takes us, then I'm in. And Mark's the same. He's keen. We'd love to do it, and you don't want to just not know. Not knowing and turning something down and then regretting it later, I think, is one of the life's curses, and you should avoid that at all costs, regardless of what it is.
That's so serendipitous you say that, because I was just talking to the wife before, because I've got these opportunities to write biographies at the moment. That's what I've transitioned into, because I finished uni. Instead of going into news media, I've decided to become an author as best as I possibly can, at least anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm absolutely determined to write as many biographies of musicians before I die as I can. That's what I wanted. That's exactly like what you're saying with Karoshi and with music, and I feel the same way with my writing. And so I just thought, fuck this. I'm not developing a mindset that's not a growth mindset. It's always going to be a take hold of the opportunity, a growth mindset. There's always going to be opportunities there. Make the most of the opportunity that's the most obvious one that's in front of him. Now, I think you're doing the same thing. So you've hit on, and that's why I thought it was so serendipitous with what you're talking about with, you don't want to have any regrets. And you've got this wonderful music in here. And I often say this on the podcast too, because obviously none of the Americans and probably a lot of the Brits and people who listen to the podcast have got any idea who Wayne Bennett is. But you and I know who he is so well. But what's his first book? Don't Die with the Music in You. You know, you have to be you. Don't leave anything in the grandstand. Leave it out on the field. You know, put it all in out on the field, so to speak, in rugby league parlance. And I think you and I are just trying to lead our best lives that way.
It's 100% true. And on board, and it doesn't matter. You could be a professional football player, or a hack guitar player, or just pumping the tunes that are in his head out best he can. It doesn't matter what it is. You can't. It's different. There's a lot of people who want to be other people. All these fucking pretenders and people who think they're what's that they call it? Influencers and all these fuckwits.
Influencers, I call them. But yeah, influencers.
They're trying not to be them. They're trying to get themselves to this other level of celebrity or some shit like that. It's like, but that's you. They think that they're going to regret if they don't become famous, but that doesn't work like that. You've got to regret doing the thing that drives you and things, and getting 15 minutes of fame, that doesn't drive you. We've had music in us fucking 30, 40 years. That's your thing that you can't shake. No matter what you do, you become parents, you change jobs, you move houses, you move interstate, you do whatever. You always got that fire of something in you, whether, I've met people who were vets and then they ended up, being nurses because they just wanted to help people instead of animals.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what they always wanted to do, and they've gone and do it. No different to what, you just said about your book. No, fuck this. I'm going to do this, and bang. And then you do it. And the weight loss thing was the same. Just got to a point where this spark, just going to do it, bang, and do it. Just don't. And as soon as you start thinking about, what about, then you're hurting yourself. Just, if you get that moment of clarity, that little moment where it's like,
that's
bang,
it. Yeah.
That's it. That's your story. It's like when you're doing footy tipping. It's usually your first tip. You never change your tip. Never change your tips.
I agree absolutely with that. Although I had just had a situation. Well, it's not a bad thing, but my wife bought a lottery ticket and she gave it to me to scratch. And I said, "Don't give it to me. I come last in all these footy tipping polls and scratchies and all that. I never win anything." Of course, she gives it to my daughters, one 150 and the other one 25 on the same thing. Yeah, but if I'd scratched it, of course, it would have been. I probably would have had to pay them money.
Yeah. Yeah, funny how it works, isn't it?
It's just you're just the energy of things, But yeah, look, I it'll happen for you, man. Because I've got some insight into your personality, but the strength of the songs, man. I mean, they're undeniable, and that's actually where it's at. Oftentimes, when people are putting together a project like what you're doing, it takes a long time to find the groove. It sounds like you guys have found it straight away, and that's because this is the music that's within you. So I truly hope, brother, that for you, that as soon as this COVID bullshit is over, that you can get up there on stages and you can bring the music to the people, and you can play the Triffid or the Zoo or in Brisbane here or wherever it might be, because, man, I'll be up the front with the beer, I can tell you that.
I'd probably want to be there with you, but it's kind of hard to do both, obviously. You're right. I mean, we did have a couple of demos early of other tunes that we did, like from the very start, and they were kind of cool, but they didn't make us dance as much as the ones that are going to be on the release. So we're just going, that's the rule. That's the rule. So they just got parked, and will they get revisited one day? Unlikely, only because if it doesn't make you dance then, how's it going to make you dance now, down the track? So, and you have to be able to do that. And I think the good artists do that. I mean, you may recall an EP Metallica released Beyond Magnetic. So there was like 4 tracks on it.
I remember
that didn't make the Death Magnetic album. And they shouldn't have, because they weren't at the same level as the tracks that were on there. And it was good to hear them, because you like, hearing songs that are, I like people who are able to say, this is not our best work, but it's us, just so you know. And, it's saying you're used to hearing us being on top all the time. This isn't what we're always like. My daughter watches on YouTube a lot a thing called Dude Perfect, all these trick shots and stuff like that. A lot of fun. These guys do these trick shots and they're fucking crazy, some of this shit. But they always say, that took us about 38 times to get it. They just straight up fess up going, I know that was cool, but it took us a lot of goes. And you just go, respect. You know, it's not, you're not bullshitting everyone going, yeah, we throw things over buildings and get it first time because we're the best. It's like, no, we practiced. We tried and tried and tried and we didn't give up till we fucking got it. And then when they did, it looks fantastic. And I think it's even worth more that, you know, that you don't give up. You get an idea in your head, you go, I'm going to fucking do this, and you keep doing it. You keep doing it. And that's how it works, I guess, in our case as well. You know, we've got the idea in our head. We want to do this, and we're going, no, fuck, we're going to do it. We're going to do it right. We're going to make sure the songs are strong and the best that we can do and we can be. You know, limited by whatever the limitations are at the time. You know, first release, self-funded, all that sort of stuff. But certainly no excuses because we've made sure the production sounds, you know, fat. And it got played on Dark Essence, which is the industrial show on Triple Z last night. G'day, Josh. How you going? Thank you. And, you know, it was before one of the new Dark Cell tracks, and it was after another track from Europe or something like that. And it, production-wise, sounded great, didn't it? It just sounded aligned, you know, and that was kind of, you know, it was nice. It's always nice to hear songs on the radio, especially when you know, not Powderfinger and shit, where you're not, you know, necessarily used to it all the time. But knowing that it is, you know, same, you know, it sits amongst the same level as everyone else that's in the same media, then you can feel confident that, you know, you have done your best and you're giving yourself every opportunity, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. That's all you can do. Yeah. This show actually used to be on 4ZZZ. I was a broadcaster there a few years back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when I was doing this. It was on digital. It wasn't on the terrestrial station. But
Sure.
I can't even remember the nights I was on now. Tuesday, one of the T's, Tuesday or Thursday night. I can't recall. But, yeah, I remember Dark Essence, and there's a Metal Maiden show, I think. Or is that Dark Essence? I can't remember. Either way.
No, it's different. There's Metal Maiden. There's another metal show too, which is fairly new. Crunch Factor. I think that's just starting up pretty soon, and I think they've got the song and they're going to give it a whirl as well in the next couple of weeks, which is cool. I sent not my style, even though it's a little bit early, to another couple of guys at the station. So you know it's been positive feedback from them, and they'll give that a spin closer to the release date as well. So that's nice, you know, giving it to a few. And it's funny, you know, it's the guys I've sent it to have been like new music, punk, industrial and metal, but they've also they're going to play it. And that's because we kind of are a bit industrial, but a bit metal and a bit rock and a bit this. And I've sent it to the dance show as well. That's my goal. If I can get played on the dance show, I'll be fucking ecstatic. The EDM, the dance show, because I mean it's all going to be techno and things like that. And I mean, but if you listen to what's going on behind, you know, Not My Style and Get Out of My House, they're just big stadium dance tunes, man. You just hear those beats. That was, you know, that's kind of what we wanted to transcend. I mean, I'm the most anti-label person that I've ever met. I can't stand labels. I think if you label something, you reduce it. You know, heard a song the other day and I fucking loved it. Oh, what kind of music is it? Doesn't matter. It was a great song. Well, what kind of music was it? Oh, it was rock. I don't like rock. So all of a sudden, this person might hear this song and it could change their life, but because it got labelled as rock and they in their mind don't like rock, I'm not even going to listen to it. Fuck, don't do that. And you see people argue on the fucking social medias. Oh, it's trance. No, it's dark house. No, it's this. It's like, oh, do you like the song? Yes. Then who gives a shit? Don't call it anything. Just call it a good song. It's called a good song. And that's why, you know, it's easy to justify, you know, it was only the other day, I think it was Monday, I was on the train and, you know, I had headphones on and, you know, I was listening at just random, just pick on anything that comes up and I love it. And, you know, I'd Slipknot on the train. So, you know, I'm just politely tapping my head and, you know, train headbanging, which is obviously, you know, a tenth of what you'd expect at a gig. And then the next song that came on was Jive Talking by the Bee Gees. And I had this big smile on my face going, I love that I can listen to Slipknot and then the Bee Gees. And it just made me feel warm inside. And I had this big, stupid, cheesy grin on my face, which probably made me look a bit weird on the train. But it gives a shit. It's just good music, man. Makes you move and it's got the energy and it's just happy and makes you smile. And that's what it's all about. It's just got to be about that. You get that vibe, you get that energy from it. Labels. Yeah, sorry, I get all shitty and rant. So sorry about the rant.
No, it's all good. I just laughing at the parallels. You know, I just love your guitar playing, and obviously we get along. But I used to do something similar. Most of the music I listened to was in preparation for an interview or what have you these days. But I used to have a playlist back in the day, and frequently what would come on one after the other was Chic. You know, Bernard Edwards and Nile Rodgers, the great masters, and then Obituary. Who I also love, who are a bit different to Slipknot, but just straight up Floridian death metal.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Chic, and this was the mid 2000s or thereabouts on an iPod that I had. You know, those little things
Yeah.
that couldn't
Phone
make or use the internet, make phone calls or use the internet. But that probably tells a little bit about our background too. When we grew up, when you had to search for music, it wasn't given to you like it is now on YouTube. We had to listen to Triple J and record it, as I often did on the 3 Hours of Power.
Yeah.
Or in Sydney, do you remember this? 2SER, Wayne DZ's alternative music show.
2SER.
Remember that one?
Absolutely. Yeah, mate, absolutely.
Man, I remember being in the boarding house I was in Friday nights, because we used to have to play sports on the Saturdays. But man, I heard Dead Kennedys, all sorts of the Saints,
Yeah, nice.
Sex Pistols, and too many bands that I can't even remember. You know, the I Walked with a Zombie band, whoever that is. All of this stuff would come on, and now I know I can hear pop groups and covering that shit now. It's almost 30 years ago, which makes me feel a bit old.
Yeah,
26 years ago, I was at school. It's crazy it's been that long, but it feels like yesterday, doesn't it? But just underlining that point there, that music is a feel thing. It's a vibe thing. You connect with it. Fuck labels. If you like it, that's the thing that's most important. Forget about it. It's got to connect with you on an emotional level, no matter how deep or shallow that might be. And dance music does do that too. The other thing that I had on the other night was Dead Eyes Opened.
Right.
Remember that one from Severed Heads?
Yeah.
And it sounds a bit I've got to say, it hasn't aged well, I've got to say.
Okay.
It literally sounds like a 28-bit beat or what have you, just this juk, you like computer music with someone just laying over a narrative, you know, that Mahat thing that they are talking about with the severed head and the dead eyes opened.
Yeah.
But I still connected with it because I remembered I used to connect with it back in the day. But yeah, I mean, that's the point. Music is an emotional thing, and if you bond with it, then run with it, and you never know where it's going to take you. And like you, it's taken you to this wonderful point where you've got this great outfit.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I was lucky enough to see Prodigy in Brisbane a couple of years ago, which was like Keith's one of his last shows. Turned out to be, but I still remember that night so clearly because I was a big boy back then, but I was down in the mosh pit for the lot, and all I remember afterwards was just this exhilaration and just looking at my clock, watching, going, I don't recall where that 2 hours has gone, and that to me is a perfect gig. You lose yourself. You're taken away. You're not thinking about shitty work or any other problems. You're just in the moment, you know, which is exactly what a gig is for. Just go and be enveloped by the energy from the stage, and being a muso, you know, you feed off the energy coming back to you, and it's really quite cyclical, you know, you give off and they give back, and it just keeps going. But it was just this night where I just remember going, man, all I know for that last 2 hours was I was just so happy, and I had such a good time. I was sweaty as fuck. Geez, it was a hot night in Brisbane, I'll tell you that. Humidity was high. But geez, it was good, and that's your goal, to just lose yourself. I mean, I you know, you can get cranky old man and shake your fist at everyone holding their phones because they're just, you know, you know what you can get from a gig, and it is that exhilaration feeling, and they're not going to get it. You can't. But you go, they paid the same amount of money as me. If that's what they want to do with their money, then that's cool, man. I'm not gonna let it affect me. I'm just gonna go and do my thing and have a good time. It is a bit weird, and I mean, ironically, there's footage of me playing at Soundwave because somebody was standing there with a phone, and that's great for posterity. You know, I've shown my child. You know, we've been watching shit on YouTube, and then we flick over and say, "Have a look at this. This is Daddy," and she's just there going, she's freaking out. You know, now she's a bit older and can understand what's going on, and so you know, I've shown her different clips, me playing in Boston, me playing in New York. You know, the festivals and all that sort of shit, and you know. And I wouldn't have that if there wasn't someone standing there with a phone. Yeah. And so even though they're getting a different experience from the night, it's benefited me directly. Thanks, phone people. But, you know, it's you can't tell people what to do. I know there were some artists who banned phones from their gigs. And I get it because it used to be at the end of the song, everyone would just be like, fuck. And now it's, you hear a couple of coughs and splatters because everyone's just standing there with their phone waiting for the next thing. Come on, play another song, entertain me. And what I said before about, you know, the energy coming from the crowd being fed and let you, you know, fire up a bit more. If the crowd's not giving you any love back because they're standing with their phone, it can kind of kill the vibe too for the artist. And I don't know that anyone realises that yet. I think it's going to take something a bit more drastic, a few more big guns saying, nah, fucking put your phones away or whatever it is. And
but it doesn't make sense to me either, man, because your memories are the most important thing. If you can lose your memories if all your memories are of standing there making sure you're holding your phone up, and then your memory becomes of watching the performance on your phone instead of actually being there in the moment. And I've got to say, I applaud artists. They can't be crabby old men about it like the Eagles were, though, where they're almost giving constant reminders to. I mean, the average age of the people in an Eagles gig is about 65, for God's sakes. Nobody needs reminding more than once. Just tell us once, put the things away. But at some of these gigs with bands that you and I are into, all of the bands that we've mentioned across, I can't understand. I mean, be in the moment, for God's sakes. I'll never forget when. Do you remember Living Colour toured in 2017 and 2018? The 2017 gig. Do you remember when Vernon's guitar? Corey unplugged, accidentally stepped on the cable, and it was unplugged, and it must have done something to the guitar jack, the jack in the guitar, cable jack, I should say.
How did I miss that?
So I remember that. How I spoke to Doug about this, Doug Wimbish. Yeah, and I said, holy shit, because you got to keep going, you can't stop, and that took about 3 to 4 minutes to rectify whatever was going on there. So of course that just left the trio to do what they would do best, which is just fucking groove.
Yeah.
This almighty groove from Doug Wimbish, who's probably, I'll probably say, probably the greatest rock bass player of all time, in my opinion.
I've heard you talk about his rig and his sound many, many times. Many times.
Oh, yeah. You could, okay. I have modeled, certainly I started when I was playing a lot live back in 2008 and 9 and stuff. Modeled my sound on his. There's no doubt. I used to listen to his albums. So Stain in particular, not Stain. Oh God, I got a mental block. What's the one with the woman on the front with the cage on her head?
That's Stain.
It is Stain. God, what am I doing? Yeah. Stain. Anyway, that is the album because that was the in-market album when I got into them, 92 or 93, whatever it was. Yeah. And listening to him, you could hear everything that he did. And I thought, that's what I want to do, be the bassist where you can hear everything. So I didn't achieve his tone because I think he uses Spectre back then, but he certainly uses Warwick now. And I think he uses EBS or Trace Elliott these days. And I don't use any of that equipment. So, but it's the fingers, it's the hammer-ons and all of this sort of stuff to make sure that you can be prominent. And to hear him isolated like that, imagine if I had my phone up at that moment trying to capture it, as opposed to just absorbing the beautiful energy that's coming from him and from Will, and Corey's crooning along as well. And I guess that's the musician's perspective, but other people out there, they're trying to, it's like these people who try to capture fireworks with their phones. You're the river, the river fire here or what have you. You see them doing it. It's like, what are you going to do? Look at it later on? You're not. You know they're not.
No, none of them do. I think isn't it all to get likes and shit?
I think, look, it has to be. I think so. It's. I don't know why. I mean, the point is, you've got, unless they know how to use software like Premiere Pro or whatever, I don't see any or whatever the native Apple thing was on the iPhone, which I don't use because I use the Adobe suite. Like, but what are you going to do? Post it for like 4 views on
Yeah,
YouTube, which is what most content on YouTube gets, 3 or 4 views or whatever it is.
yeah.
Like,
It's funny you
there's
mentioned Premiere Pro. We taught ourselves how to use that for Karoshi for our and tried to make some film clips. So I've
Mhm.
concocted one for Not My Style, which will be the single for the EP, and
Good on you.
Mark
Yeah.
put one together for Become, and we put it on YouTube, and it was banned within a day.
Why?
Just hate speech, apparently.
Oh, don't get me started. God,
Yeah,
people who listen to
exactly.
this lately, we've gone down the rabbit hole with this sort of stuff because
Yeah.
it's becoming totalitarian. But I can't imagine knowing you, knowing the music you're into, and having some insight into your lyrics. I can't even begin to imagine what you'd be doing that would be classified as hate speech.
It's not. It's the main song. The line in the song is, if you're not anti-fascist, what are you? You know, it's real. It's a challenging song. It's like, look at yourself. If you're not the type of person who says no to that, just shit, then fucking what are you, mate? Have a look at yourself. And I mean, it was a fairly confronting clip. There was lots, there's pictures of your Trumps and your Hitlers and your riots and stuff like that. And really,
Okay.
the result, fucking this is the result of that way of thinking and that kind of
Mm.
lifestyle that is still prevalent, which is ridiculous in itself. But yeah, they've seen clips, I think, of possibly a Hitler image or something, and they've gone, oh, it must be bad, must be promoting the Fourth Reich, or who knows how they think. It's probably it's
Must
just a
be
bot.
that.
It's a
Yeah, of
bot,
course, it's a bot. Yeah, it's an algorithm.
and
Yeah,
so you
that's all it
can't
is.
then go back to them and say, dude, why'd you take my thing down? Because, well, there's no one going to answer you, and they don't give a
Yeah.
shit. So we've got the clip on Venmo, and it's on our website, and that sort of shit. So that's it's out there. But you although today I think he said that we've got 12 subscribers to our YouTube channel. We haven't got any videos on there, so that's nice. We haven't put the Not My Style one up yet, but because we'll do that a bit closer to release and to Mark.
Look, I've got a theory. Look, I've got a theory, mate. Moving forward, that we cannot use in terms of if we as artists, musicians, creators, broadly speaking, authors, that sort of thing. If we want to have total ownership and control of what we do, we need to create our own channels, whether that be websites where you capture people's information. It begs the question about how you capture the interest of a broader audience. But I know with what I'm going to be doing with my books, as little as possible will I be using social media. It'll just be maybe one announcement, go to this webpage here, have a look here. That way it's all here. There'll be a constant feed of stuff here. It's not going to be clickbaity bullshit, but just use social media to raise awareness, but not actually have the content on there. Because I think the cartelling that is going on with Facebook, which is Instagram, so it's the same thing. Google and YouTube are the same thing because they're the same company.
Yeah.
Alphabet, whatever it's called. And then Twitter. There's only 3 companies in the world these days that control something in the vicinity of 99% of all content.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
Nuts. And so we're at the beck and call. And to your exact point, then it's an algorithm that determines what people do and don't see, no matter what the message is and no matter how profound it is. And there is I am 100% that even for free speech, even from the perspective that if someone is saying something vulgar, and I'm not talking about these fuckhead pedophiles or anything like that, they can burn as far as I'm concerned.
100%.
But I'm talking about different political opinions and the like. People have got to have an opportunity to put things on the table, whether somebody else thinks they're right or wrong. Because at the moment, people are retreating into what I call their virtual caves. This issue now where people so-called on the right are going into Parler and these other niche. Have you heard of these social media platforms like Parler? So basically, a lot of people with so-called conservative views, sometimes they're just not conservative views, they're just views. They're being exactly like what you experienced, and they get the shits and they go, bugger this, and so they're not on mainstream platforms anymore. See, this is how these people develop these QAnon conspiracy beliefs. Have you heard of that shit?
Yeah.
It's weird shit, yeah. And you think like, what? I've spoken to people about it who I still believe are loaded with common sense, but still believe it. And I guess I just put it down to one of those things. Like some people believe they've had an alien visit them, whatever.
Right.
Some people believe they've seen a ghost. Okay, whatever. If you have, you have. If you're making it up, well, you're making it up. That sort of thing. But with what I'll bring it full circle, and I'm sorry, back to what you're doing there. Yeah, it's to put out something that, like what you've described, and to have that was it actually flagged as hate speech? Is that the message you got back? Is that it actually said?
I can't remember the wording, but the word hate speech was on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh, it
been
said
pulled
hate
down
speech.
because blah blah hate speech. Oh, fucking did you like? And you can't argue.
But you can't have an algorithm to determine these things. That's the problem. So if you're using a service where an algorithm, so it's AI, determines these things, we've truly crossed over to the dark side of the rainbow.
Very much so.
You can't. They're not sentient. AI will never be sentient. It cannot distinct. The big thing about AI is it cannot distinction. It can't make a distinction between intention or otherwise.
Yeah.
So it can't do it. All it looks is the end result and go, oh, bang, that's wrong speak or hate speech.
I remember I love watching the Jim Jeffries specials on Netflix. It's hilarious. And I remember him on one of them, and he said that, there was an interview done. He'd done some shows in Australia, and somebody, wrote up his shows and quoted word for word his jokes. And he said, he goes on to say that his party trick is that he can say horrible things but still seem likable because it's the phrasing, it's the tone, it's the manner, it's the gestures that come along with the joke. But because these, can be quite horrible and, on occasion, real boundary, pushing the boundaries, like being demeaning or misogynist or whatever jokes, if they're just written down and you read them out of context without all the gestures and the fun parts to it, it's bad. It's fucking real bad. And so he's, all of a sudden, this journalist written down all these jokes, and Jim Jeffrey believed this, and he said this and this and this. They were jokes, but you weren't there to see the whole package of the delivery and the things. And it's just like what you're saying. How does a bot know? If I said to you, mate, you know what that means. If I said, mate, you know what that means. But a bot just sees the word. He doesn't see the tone. He doesn't see the expression, what it's the context or anything like that. So if he's seen a photo of Hitler in our video, they've gone, oh, Hitler bad, video bad, gone.
Got no context. It just says Hitler. It's got zero context about the message you're trying to put out, which is an anti-Hitler message. It's an anti-fascist message.
Anti-everything, and that's it. We requested, we said, can we just get a person to watch it? And then they'll see that it's obviously it shouldn't have been thingy because of what it is. But again, no response, deaf ears. They don't care. It's fucking, which one person in a billion person quantity. But I find that something you said earlier is that, they own 99% of all these things. And because of the convenience of your Googles and those things, everyone's so reliant on those that, Google is now a verb. It was a noun, but now it's a verb. Because that's just how things work. And I used to work for car sales a while ago. And car sales is where you go in Australia, possibly in other places around the world, I'm not sure. But if you're looking for a car to buy, new or used, you go to car sales. That's it. There are competitors. They're pointless because car sales is in the vernacular.
They've got all the eyes, yeah.
It's just where it goes. Now, Holden at one point didn't like paying car sales fuckloads of money to get their sales through. And they went, you know what? Fuck you, we're not doing it. We're going to pump our money instead into our own advertising, put our own ads on the TV, put our own ways. We're not going to use you. In principle, sounds great. Good on you. You're pushing back against the big capitalist company that owns and decides who does what when. What happened, though, was that their car yards and their salesmen went from, say, 7 salesmen to 2 because all their sales dropped because Holden were no longer on car sales anymore, so they weren't getting looked at anymore, and it hurt them fucking real bad. They just lost, and eventually they had to go, oh, maybe if we put 1 or 2 models of cars on there, like specials, and got them back on. And there's been other brands of cars that have done the same thing over the years, got, no, fuck you, I'm not doing it anymore, and eventually had to come back, tail between their legs, because it's that controlled now that you don't have a choice. If you don't use car sales, you don't sell cars. And, bike sales is the same. And, there's lots of other websites out there. And, we saw what happened with the news and shit recently in Australia when, Facebook just said, nah, fuck you guys, your rules are shit, and taking them off. And bang, everything collapsed. And essential information to for health and education and all that got lost as well because a switch got flicked because someone didn't like it. You go, how can you impact millions of lives just because someone doesn't like it? Where's your consideration of both sides of the coin? You don't have to like something. This is one of my most used sayings to my child. You don't have to like it, but you still got to do it. Now, I'm talking about homework and practicing a piano and shit like that, but it's the same message. You don't have to like what someone says, but you have to understand that, everything you say isn't right. And, you can't get offended, which is the buzzword, because someone's got a different opinion. Because then it just arcs up and it comes to these levels where things just get turned off, a knee-jerk reaction, and you can't have a video clip that, might challenge some people and make people think and be abrupt and in your face and say, this is what happens if you are like this. It's big picture. You might not think you are, but if you're not anti-fascist, what are you, mate? What are you? You need to think about this and be able to look yourself in the mirror. So it's a nasty, slippery slope, but because of the reliance and the convenience, we all live in a world of convenience now. It's what it's all about. And it's hard to change that. If someone's got a good, then why would you make something harder for yourself? It's very hard, but you don't, the general population probably don't understand the underlying lack of principles and the underlying message. It's like when you look at something on your phone and then you go to work and then you might just have a little bit of downtime and you go to Fox Sports just to check the local scores, and there's an advertising on your work computer of something that you looked up on your phone 4 hours ago. And you fucking, because of all their algorithms, they know who's looking at what, where, and where they, how it all works, that they're there. And you go, it's, the whole Big Brother thing and shit. It's just crazy because convenience that's the price you pay for the convenience, I suppose.
Yeah. Loss of self, loss of privacy at the very least. It's like I mentioned Dead Kennedys before, but
one of my favourites, mate. One of my favourite bands of all time.
Same here, likewise. And as I play guitar too a little bit, and Chicken Informus is one of the first songs I ever learnt because it's got that fairly East Bay raised feel.
Ding 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 ding.
You can play it. Yeah. As a beginning guitarist, you can play it. That and Venom's Black Metal, and sorry, I'll just bring it back to Dead Kennedys, but that song, the album, Give Me Convenience or Give Me Death. He was talking about supermarkets and the corporatocracy back then, but it's just grown, hasn't it, to where people are. I was speaking to Paul Allender from Cradle of Filth about some of the things that he's experienced, and he wrote most of that band's music when he was in the band, and he was in. So if he wrote like he asked me not to share too much, and I know a lot of people listen to the podcast. I'm getting a bit of a rep for being a subject matter expert on Cradle of Filth, so I'm sort of limited as to what I can say. But forget about the Paul Allender point because I know he's a bit sore about things at the moment. I think so. I'll just leave it there anyway. But look, I'll bring it back to the Facebook thing. Do you know that it was an algorithm that removed all of that, like Queensland Health, it removed all of the government websites. That's what it was. It removed that poor lady and her family whose fuckwit husband burnt her and her kids. Remember the memorial pages for her? It removed. It had no nuance. It probably, I don't know whether it took care of it took down the Daniel Morecambe stuff either. But this is the point, and this underlines that there is no nuance. So when Facebook came across, and they're using us as an example, a bit like what's happening with the Chinese government at the moment, because if we win against the Chinese government with what's happening, meaning our government with the bureaucratic stash that's happening there at the moment, the same thing with Facebook. Other countries will fall like dominoes, meaning I think the Australian government's doing the right thing here. I've got to say, I actually back the government on this point. There's two schools of thought here. So Facebook doesn't want to pay mastheads for content. Okay. But the problem with a lot of mastheads is one of the key reasons I didn't go into news media deeper than what I had before, because I did write for the Bulletin, but I did it on two separate internships. But nothing wrong with the Bulletin, it's just news media in general. My view overall is that news media has been compromised so badly lately, it's not actually news media anymore, and it's something that I'm quite passionate about. And the thinking behind that is, if I don't think that Facebook paying the mastheads for content is actually going to fix journalism, because it's all effectively, not all, but a lot of it is about clickbait at the moment. It's not about bringing real news, real stories. It's about what gets the greatest hits and clicks. And this has been the issue constantly with bands too. So I'll sort of pivot a little bit and I'll talk about bands too. So I've thought long and hard as a musician and as an author, creating, and this god-awful buzzword, which I hate using, but communities, creating communities. And that way you can sort of sell and pitch to communities and the like. But how do you do that without social media? And with the way people are now conditioned, given it's been with us for, it's 15 years, we've probably longer we've had social media, is it? It's about 13 years or so, ever since the iPhone came in is when social media truly took off. So I don't think, even though I support the Australian government's position with Facebook and their view that they should pay content creators, i.e. the mastheads, for the content that they're using to build an audience and therefore sell our privacy because we are the product with Facebook, I don't think it's going to change a goddamn thing moving forward, brother. And that's the issue. I think people aren't motivated enough because, and I'll bring it full circle again, give me convenience or give me death. It's all there.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And there's so many messages from Dead Kennedy that were valid 40 years ago that still are now, you know. I'm trying to think of which song it is, but one of my favourite Dead Kennedy's lines is, if the Doors or John Lennon were getting started now, the industry wouldn't sign them in a million years. And this is 40 years ago, and still true now, man. I mean, you know, you have to be on The Voice or some shit to crack it. You got to have that social media presence. You got to be discovered online. It's got nothing to do with your actual capabilities and content. And, you know, you're pushing shit uphill. Doesn't matter how good you are sometimes, but it's just and that's the thing. And I mean, we're all guilty of having those guilty pleasures where you do want things convenient, especially now, you know, when you're time poor as a parent. You know, you've got to work, you've got your kid, you've got other shit you want to do. You just want things to be easier for yourself. And, you know, you don't purposely, no, I'm doing it this way just because I want to do it. You just go, oh, fuck, I just got to do this. It's no different to, you know, making your kids, you know, you want them to read a book and they just give you grief and you've got a headache and you go, oh, just fuck, watch TV for half an hour. I don't give a shit. You know, just shut up for a while. Give me a break. It's just that way, and I don't know what it's going to take to change. It's always going to be there, but if there's a way to tweak it so it's not as controlled and there's not other people making decisions for you 100% of the time, you know, if there was that freedom to get away from, but it's all based on advertising and shit as well. That's why the ads come up and why they're everywhere, so they know who you can advertise. And I mean, we utilise that now. I mean, when we put our ads on for Facebook for Become, you know, we've got hits from Peru because we've, you know, put, oh, what's the music like? Oh, Prodigy and, you know, Pendulum and stuff. And so their algorithm goes, all right, find some people with those interests and put the ad in front of them. And anyone that clicks on them, then we find people with similar interests to the people who've clicked on your ad and put the ad in front of them. And if they click on it, and that's how it works. And that's why, you know,
but the problem there, sorry to interrupt, is that there will be people that will love your music that don't have an interest in Pendulum and the Prodigy, who will never see it because of the way the algorithm works, which I think is the problem.
Yeah, no, I agree fully. You know, I guess being just a couple of blokes from Brisbane trying to get tunes out, you're happy to get it in front of everyone, but this comes back to that full circle about the labels we were talking before. You know, it asks you, when you put a song onto Spotify, it says, what kind of song, what kind of music is it? You can't write good. You have to say what the genre is, what the subgenre is. And now when you've got a song like Not My Style, which is electro rock, which is metal, which is rock, which is punk, you can't put all those on there because then it looks at it. Spotify are quite clear on this. You need to pick up like a thing and a sub. You can't put it over a couple because then they'll just fuck it off. You've got to pick which ones it is because then they know where to put the songs in their playlist and things like that.
Yeah.
So we're looking at it going, well, fuck. Now we're writing just naturally. It's not we're coming out with genre mashing tunes just because this is just the music that's coming out of us. It can be played on a metal show, it can be played on a dance show, but now we have to give it a label so we can put it out there. What do you call it? And you go, fuck out, I don't know which.
Yeah.
What there's no right answer. You just got to try and pick the one that's possibly going to, like a majority rules, I suppose, for lack of a better term. There's probably going to be more people in the metal crowd who respond better to the big beats and the big riffy guitars than people who are more traditional dance folk who just want the electric sounds. Even though we have all the electric sounds and the big beats, maybe the guitar scares them off a little bit, but maybe they'll like it because they've not heard anything like that before. But you're not going to know because of exactly what we're talking about. You can't get in front of everybody anymore because everything's got to be labelled, and then the bots decide who hears your song. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. And then you rely on word of mouth that people then share your music, or do they? And the other thing too is people are so conditioned to listening to Spotify playlists these days. Songs play in the background, and people are barely perceiving what's actually happening. So they're not taking the time. I cannot tell you how many new releases I get a week, just with all the mailing lists that I'm on, and just about all, not all, but I'm talking to the margin of an error, 100%. It's well produced. It's more or less well written. A lot of stuff, there's some kind of a fatal flaw, like the guitar just hasn't got a tone that matches the singer's voice, which I listen to which I try to tune in for. Like a lot of these metal bands, I get a lot of metal stuff, but this power metal thing is huge these days. And so look at singers are trying to sound like a cross between Bruce Dickinson and Rob Halford. And the guitar sounds too thin. So you've already got a fairly thin vocal because it's that operatic style. You have to have meaty, ballsy guitars underneath that as a counterpoint. There's a key word right there. As musicians, we understand these things, but I don't know why these other musos don't. But so much stuff from Europe that I get sent, I can have it on for about 5 minutes, and then I go, guys, if you needed a producer in the room or somebody, or just a mate or somebody to go, no, don't do that. I've even approached some of my reviews that way. Said, love what you guys are doing overall, but here's what I can recommend. And it's not that I've got any skin in their game whatsoever, but you just want to help people. Exactly to my point with what we're talking about with the algorithms, because they're not going to help you for a goddamned. And most reviews these days are PR. They don't actually talk and critically. I remember the British press were extraordinarily horrible at tearing down bands. I don't know whether they still do that. The NME and those other magazines that we never got in Australia, or you'd see like weeks after. It'd be, you'd see like a month afterwards, and of course they'd be on to the next flavour of the month, Arctic Monkeys or whatever it was at the time, that they picked up and said were the new Beatles. Remember that? Every 3 months there was or thereabouts there was a new British band that they said was the new Beatles.
Yeah,
they did that with Oasis, and it's like,
yeah, absolutely,
no. But you just try. This is the key point. Evangelizing rock music and evangelizing guitars, bass, drums, rock and roll. That's if I could give myself a label, and I'm with you, man. I'm not about labels either, but I think that's. So I make the point. I just try to evangelize this because nobody else is, man. The mainstream media doesn't give a shit. And with my podcast, that's why I have so many such a variety of guests on, from the extreme Scandinavian satanic bands like Watain, Eric Danielson, that I've had on, to conversations like I'm conducting here with yourself, to dance music from Melbourne. And and just try to, that's why, we're from the same school. Just try to give people that perspective that it's okay to be into all of this stuff. It's okay to just, it's music. That's what it is. And because I've purposefully given my show an artwork which sort of is slightly extreme metal or thereabouts, because I know that's where a lot of my audience does come from. But I see that the same people are listening to, as I say, Eric Danielson from Watain, as they're listening to Lamalo, who's an electronic artist from the northern beaches of Sydney. I can see that because I can see, using Whooshka's the data that they give to me, where they're listening from.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can see that's happening, and I think that's all you can be. You can only be the change that you want to see in the world. I think I'm doing it. You're definitely doing it with your music that you've got here, man. And I hope that somehow it gets to the ears of someone influential, a David Geffen maybe, like that. You never
Oh, there
know,
you
though.
go. Yeah,
You never ever know. There's
it's
that old
true.
story about Quentin Tarantino. I think because he used to holiday in Australia a lot, and he heard a Japanese band of all things on a CD in a car or coming from someone's car. I think it was. Have
Yeah,
you heard that story for
yeah,
Kill Bill? Remember that
yeah,
story for Kill Bill? And it
yeah,
was what was the band? I can't remember. Shot a Knife. It might have been, or someone
yeah.
like that. And he goes, I have to have that music. What is it? And someone gave him the CD. I think this. I'm paraphrasing the story, but it was that. It was that thing about having your ears open, just being open to what's out there. And of course, then in your case, mate, I hope Quinton's listening to someone in their vehicle or overhearing what they're doing on their iPhone or something like that, and something cool happens for you.
Thank you, sir. You want it as that outlet, but it's more of a curiosity for me. I think, you think this is a good song. I love it. It'd be nice for other people to hear it and have a bit of a dance. But there is that curiosity. I wonder what it's like to fucking have a record that just sells like buggery. To just be heard from the radio all of a sudden, to be a one-hit wonder, or to get that level. I mean, I've had that feeling playing with Porkers of playing a song and watching people sing back a song that you've written. That's cool. I've got a copy of a recorded version of a kid from a high school in Newcastle who performed a song that I wrote with the Porkers for his HSC performance piece. Just shit like that. Oh, really cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah,
that's really nice. What a great
that's
feeling.
that change that I'm talking
Cool.
about. Yeah.
But that next level will be all of a sudden people that you don't know that well, or you've met a couple of times, that you catch up with at a pub night or something like that, going, hey, I heard your song on the road and I fucking love it. And you go, well, how did you hear that? Because it's starting to go somewhere. So there is that curiosity. You'd be lying if you're saying otherwise. You wouldn't mind knowing what it's like to have a song that's popular. I mean, that's just part of the vernacular, and it's never. I can swear on I don't believe in Bible shit, but something that's dear to me, that I have almost gone out of my way to write songs that aren't commercial. I can't do 3-chord songs. I need to have a bar of 9/8 in the middle of it to keep my head sane. So to be able to come up with these tunes that are a little bit outside the norm and the formulaic shit that you hear the majority of the time, to still have an appeal and to be able to get it to that level, I'd be curious. I'm very curious, but also being a realistic person, I'll still go to work every day and still take my kid to ballet on Saturday mornings and
That's that
yell
dad
abuse
life
at the
kicking
TV
in.
when my footy team's losing every week, and all the
All
normal
starts
stuff
up
that you do.
soon. Yeah, all of that starts up soon, doesn't it? Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, look, I'll wrap things up, but before I do, of course, now I've got to ask you to tell everybody, where can they go and find you on social media?
We are Facebooked, Karoshi. The website is just karoshi.band. I think we're on the Instagrams and the things like that as well. The song is on Bandcamp. The song's on Apple. It's on Spotify, iTunes. I'm pretty sure it's pretty much everywhere. The 2 songs, Fire and Become, and then the EP, which is called Edition, will be out March 31, and that'll be on across all those listening and streaming type places as well. We'll probably get that Not My Style, which will be the single for the EP, out a couple of weeks before, just as a precursor to the thing, and so that'll be on our YouTube page. And I think the other guys are keen to get something on our YouTube video channel soon, because, as I said, there's subscribers, but there's nothing on there. So we want to give them something. It'd be the right thing to do since they've taken the time to click on it. God love them.
Yeah.
But where good records are sold is the old saying, what they used to say. Not that there's records anymore.
Good records, good EPs are streamed.
Yeah,
nowadays.
exactly right. So, mate, everywhere. And hopefully, we can get out and do some shows as well. We'd like to see how it translates. We're still working out if, we want to put the live drums in. I mean, you go see Prodigy and they don't. You can go see bands like Confidence Man and they've got live drums and they sound massive live. I've seen them a couple of times and they have this bass.
They do.
Their chest shake. They are fucking. I'm going to see them again in May, at the Tivoli, yeah. Just because their live sound is huge. Might be considered a bit popcorn or whatever, but fuck, they sound massive live, man. Massive.
Yeah, I agree. We've got the vinyl. My girls like them, and the only thing that I'd say about their live sound is I think occasionally they need a bass, like a proper bass in there, because they've got some mad grooves, like that Boyfriend Repeat song. That's a bass line. That's a real bass line.
Yeah.
And you could easily get a bassist to get up there and do that. It's not a hard bass. I've played the bass line. It's a cinch. But
true.
if you have that blend of the two, and it's just the same thing over and over again, it just makes it a little bit more visceral. And I think that's the only thing. I mean, they wouldn't give a shit. God, they're selling or streaming tens of millions of streams. So if they'd give a shit what I think, but that's that's the only observation that I have for a lot of that stuff. But
and so that's where we're at the moment, is to decide, do we want a drummer? Do we want the thing? And I think early on, for the first shows, we'll probably keep it fairly basic and simple. I mean, Mark plays bass as well, so chances are while the sounds are going, he'll probably have a live bass again just to fatten that bottom end out. And I mean, the songs are bottom end. It's kind of drives it all. So that's probably the plan. And see how you go. I mean, it might even be trial error for the first couple of things, but we've got to wait and see what the first couple of things are. If I can jag some supports with that sort of type band like an Art versus Science, who I really love, or that sort of thing, or if we just end up doing a couple of much smaller Brisbane like something in the Valley or something, then we can just get in, see how it sounds, see how people react. If you can have good big sounds on your recording, but does those sounds translate? What do we need to kick in the gear to make sure that when you do play the songs live, that it does hit people in the chest and get the booty swaying and the toes tapping and things. So it's exciting times, we've worked on the songs, so now let's work on them and make sure that they have that same energy live, because, playing them in your car or on headphones, it's different to playing them through a big fuck off set of speakers in front of some people.
Oh God, yeah. The dynamic change shifts, as mate. God, God knows how many gigs you've done, but it'd be hundreds, if not up to 1,000 now, I suppose, wouldn't it, with the work that you did with Jelly Bean Jams?
We in 96 through to 96, 97, 98, 99, we averaged 220 gigs each year.
That's nuts. Yeah.
So I was by 2000 I'd hit about 1,000 gigs, and then it slowed down, obviously, just playing my own songs and that. And I'd sort of play with Jellies again late 2000, like 2008, 9s and stuff before I moved up here, but not near the volume that we did back in the 90s. We were just playing fucking so much, and that was great. Your late 20s, and we were just running amok. That was work, just going out and every night and getting on the cans and just smashing everything. It was so much. We had so much fun.
For you. Yeah.
But how good are your chops? You're playing in 4, 5, 6, 7 nights a week. You're just playing, and it does you no harm. That's for sure. Live experience, playing in that environment, and you learn while you play. I mean, you're playing with the same guys, but playing a lot. When you're in your bedroom playing along with a song, learning it or whatever is very different than playing it live with a bunch of guys. You got to hear, listen what's going on, because different rooms sound different, so you have to adapt, and there's so much going on. So it was great. True. It did my playing the world of good. I've probably lost those chops from 20 years ago and can't do some of the things that I used to do. But, again, you play to your strengths. I know what I can do now, and I've made sure that is reflected in how we play, and how we write and what we put on record. You want it to be you want to be on top of your game for everything you do. So you play to your strengths. It's another one of those recurring themes throughout our conversation. Play to your strengths.
Play to your strengths. But yeah, I think the other thing too is that, and I think that it might be, correct me if you feel otherwise, but I don't know. I'd like to include myself on the list of seasoned musicians, because I've probably done about 150 odd gigs or so. Nowhere near as many as yourself, but someone like yourself who is a seasoned musician, you can just tell when I'm playing with them. and the people who have done only a handful, who aren't who don't put the energy into getting their chops right before they go on stage, which goddamn that shits me so badly. When people haven't rehearsed and learnt material and they get up on stage, and I'm like, what did you fucking think was going to happen? You were going to learn it via osmosis from me or somebody else. How many times has that? I can't tell you how many times that has happened.
One of the gigs I did with you, we had a keyboard player. Might have been, I can't remember which one it was. Actually,
Lionel.
I think,
It was Lionel. Yeah.
And he was the same, and he was about 70% on the songs. And that's fine at rehearsal because that's where you tweak everything, but you don't do that gig.
Poor old Lionel. Yeah, I remember that gig. Yeah, remember we played Moves Like Jagger.
Yes.
And the intro is all keys, all keys. And then I've got to wait for it to sort of wait for the groove to come in. And it's not, if it's not quite there, it isn't quite there. And I think we had, how many rehearsals did we have before that gig? Was it like 2 or 1?
2 maybe? Or 3, I think. It was up at Billy Lee's house, yeah.
Yeah. And it's, look, as seasoned musicians, you should have. I think Lionel's got some other things going on, by the way. So, but anyway, it's beside the point from the perspective that, you're up on stage and you can't learn via osmosis unless you get up. But look, I can tell you, I have bought, and the point I was going to make earlier was that I tried to start a band once with younger musicians, emerging musicians. Holy shit! I lost thousands of dollars in that band because I bought a PA and was working with. I don't care about offending anybody, to be honest with you, on the show, but there's some of those dickheads at Gig Factory and who told me, no, if you use that person there, we'll give you a bunch of gigs. Yeah, they gave me a bunch of gigs, but these people couldn't fucking perform to save their lives. Yeah, like right. the girl could not get through the 4 sets a night that we had, so we used to have to bring along another singer just because I wouldn't have got the gigs it was sold to me that I wouldn't have got the gigs if I didn't work with this chick, and I wasn't able to use these other people like Ian from Wasabi, for example, who's a tremendous fellow and I love to death, good mate of mine. I was told, no, you can't use him. And I'm like, these guys are seasoned, but I persevere with these young people, and mate, and then you get the dog ate my homework excuses why songs aren't learnt or songs aren't learnt in the right key or just, and then it turns into a joke, and you're like, do you not understand, like playing at the Elephant in the Valley or Livewire Bar, which you and I played at the casino, that's not the place where you want to be fucking up your lines in front of potentially 100 or 200 people or whatever it is that are in there. I don't know how many people are in there at peak, but it looks like it's well over 100 anyway. Like, how do you think you're going to feel as a musician not having learnt your material, getting up on stage? It's not like you can't go anywhere. There's nowhere to go. You have to know your stuff. And my overall point there is that I just feel like as though what you and I grew up wanting to do, these emerging musicians don't want to do that. They don't want to put in the tens and hundreds and no doubt thousands of hours that we've had to do. I remember sitting in my study in the boarding house, learning Faith No More songs by ear. Stop, rewind, stop. Just, you remember that, and the Living Colour stuff, and some even tried some Primus shit. Of course, I could never get that properly, but you tried. The thing is, you tried though, and then and the other thing too was, and this probably alludes to the fact that we've got such an open mind about things. I had a Gloria Estefan CD, and the bass playing on those albums, mate, they're Latin bass lines.
Oh,
so. Crazy. I mean, you're just, oh shit, it's like, they're playing this way and then they'll invert it and then they'll come back and you're like, man, I'm being schooled here, but I'm going to keep up with it. Or something like Fantasy by Black Box or whatever it was, trying to play along to that at the same time as you've got your Faith No More and your Living Colours and your 24/7 Spies but they just haven't grown up doing that, man. And I think there's this big gap now, which is why a lot of the musicians that I'm still seeing in the covers scene are our age. They're not younger. Old. Yeah.
Mate, I had that thought the other day. I saw a photo. I mean, the guys in Jellies are still doing it, but it's basically Andy, my mate, who started the band, who's our age, and a bunch of kids, but he's picked and drilled into them. You're going to be in this fucking band. You will be good because you cannot harm the brand. You will not be allowed. The reason the band's been playing 20-something years and still is booked as much as it is and still gets booked 6 months in advance is because, one, Jelly Bean Jam's always been Jelly Bean Jam, but it hasn't wavered. The product is still there and the brand has never been harmed because, everyone's replaceable, but when you replace, you're going to get a gun in. You know, you lose a gun, you get another gun in. You don't just pick your mates or whatever. And it's funny you say the kids who don't do it. I don't know if it's part. You know, is it the whole everyone gets a trophy way of life now? You know, they're expecting to do 2 gigs and be signed and be the next Beyonce because they just expect everything on their plate because they're told they're wonderful even if they suck ass at something. Oh, you're the best. You've tried so hard. Good on you. Instead of dude, you really need to work on this. That was shit. And they don't understand the whole your brand. You've got your own brand. And when you're playing with other people, my favourite gigs I've ever done have been in playing with guys where I'm the worst person in the band because I pull my socks up and fucking I will not let anybody down. I will just make sure of it, you know. And you want to make sure you make that band sound as fucking good as it can, 100%. Whereas that way of thinking isn't there now. You know, it just doesn't exist. They're just going to turn up, get some coin, and just whatevs, mate, whatevs. I was the same as you. I used to get home from high school 20 past, 3:30, go into my room, play my guitar, come out for dinner at 6:30, eat my dinner, go back in and play my guitar till bedtime. So I was doing 4, 5, 6 hours a night minimum every day, just playing, and same sort of vibe, you know. I remember I had my standard ones. I'd have the Nobody's Perfect, which was the double live Deep Purple album.
Nice.
Barnstorming by Jimmy Barnes. I'd play through that.
That's a good album, man. Yeah.
It was great. I used to just play as if I was the guitar player in the band. So you don't just sit there and shred over everything. You're going, no, you wait.
Lock
you play
into the
whenever.
groove, correct. Yeah.
And Live and Dangerous, Thin Lizzy, which was one of my biggest influences. You know, harmony. I mean, Thin Lizzy. And I play guitar because of Gary Moore. I wanted to be a drummer when I was younger. Do you remember Beatbox on Channel 2? Beatbox was a music show.
No, I can't say I do.
It didn't go. It only went for a couple of years, and Rob Hurst from Inner had a lot to do with it. So he used to get a lot of cool, lesser-known live oils videos on there and shit like that. But me and mate, we used to watch that religiously on a Saturday morning or whenever it was, and just watching it one day, and they had this video on Gary Moore. Never heard of him. Live video, and by the end of it, I'm just going, speechless, going, fucking hell. And then the next week they played a different live song. And by the end of that song, like having seen all of 9 minutes of the guy, I just said to Mum, I've got to do that. I don't want drums. I have to do that. That's it. I just got to do that. And then practiced and fucking played, you know. I managed to talk my way backstage at a Gary Moore gig when I was in London in 2002. I got to see him at the, I'm going to say Hammersmith Odeon, but I don't think it was Brixton Academy. He was doing the Scars show. It was the last one. Managed to get backstage and have a photo with him, and he was a cranky old bastard, but I don't care because I met God, had my photo, and I was very, very happy about it. So that was good. And just hearing it play, phenomenal. I mean, he toured with Thin Lizzy in 77 for Rocktober, the one at the Opera House where you see a bit of footage sometimes.
I've spoken to Scott Gorham about that performance. I've spoken to Scotty, and I just spoke to Ricky Warwick, who's the current singer in Thin Lizzy, like 3 days ago about that.
I saw that on your thing, and I thought, fuck, I've got to listen to that soon. Yeah.
Mate, I've got to say, the Thin Lizzy guys, I said to Ricky, look, I've got to be honest, like being a bass player, I didn't say that to him, but I can say it now, give the full context to it. Being a bassist, I really shunned a lot of old school rock stuff like AC/DC, Thin Lizzy and stuff. It wasn't until I said 5 years, it'd been the recent 5 years, actually longer, that's probably 20 years, but you know, who's counting 15 years difference, you know. But remember when Guitar World and Bass Player magazine or whatever, they used to release those CDs where you could play along? That was with that demystified so many bands for me, like the Stranglers, the Jam, and of course Thin Lizzy, the big one. And I just became enthralled in what Phil was doing after that. Just he's completely different bass player to what I would be, but just I think Phil is the greatest rock frontman of all time.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Right. And I nowadays I do. And speaking to Scott about it, who was up there on that stage, that Sydney Opera House, man, I've got to tell you, man, when I've had sort of come home from wherever I'm at and I've had 7 or 8 beers and start hitting the vodka, man, guess what comes on? It's that performance.
Is it?
Yeah, I put it on from start to finish, man, and I just sit in my chair that you can see behind me here with my Mac here on, and I look at it, and I was so grateful to talk to Scott about that, who recognised the importance of the performance, who gave me Because you know what happened, don't you? It was supposed to be a small thing, like, just a couple of thousand people. Man, something like 100 and okay, between I don't know what the actual figure is, between 100,000 and 150,000 people turned up for that. You'll never get accurate figures for that.
No, you
But
can't.
but just think, Gary Scott. I never remember the drummer's name.
Well, it was Mark Norseef. It should have been Brian Downey, but I can't remember the story why Brian Downey didn't tour. So it was Mark Norseef playing on drums for that gig and for that tour. But Brian Downey is the shuffle king. No one plays a shuffle like that guy. And a lot of their drums are always that, and he just, oh man, unreal.
Oh yeah. And talking to Scott about it, talking to Ricky about it. Ricky is a tremendous fellow, by the way. God, he's just one of those guys. Is a fan, but has achieved this great dream and this accomplishment that he has. But he said in another interview, but I spoke to him about it, was that he's not standing in Phil's shoes because he just can't. Nobody can. But he's standing beside them and he's keeping them. He's not even. I think he said, "Where's the effect of when he thinks of Thin Lizzy? He's not in it. It's Phil."
Yeah.
Of course it is. But you've got to bring the music to the people as he's doing right now, and talking to Scott about it too. Talking to the guy, because man, I'd love to write his biography, Scott Gorham, because he went through the same hell that Phil did, but he came out of the other side. Phil didn't.
No, true, very true. You
so,
read all those interviews about the mischief they used to get into when Brian Robertson was in the band and all that sort of stuff as well, and it's. Oh, Jesus. I mean, it's a different era, and that's the shit you could do. And, I mean, there wasn't social media, so there was a lot of shit that you could do.
Exactly, yeah.
But, no, to live through it when, one of your best mates is doing the same thing and doesn't, it's got to be scary. If that doesn't slap you around the head, then I don't know what will.
Yeah, I don't think it ever leaves you. Like, look at Leonard Skinner, when they had the plane crash. I know that wasn't drug and alcohol. I think they hit it pretty hard, by the way. But still, I think when you live through that era when, like, rock stars in that era, they could fucking play their instruments too. Talking about Thin Lizzy, like that performance. Go back to that Sydney performance. I've spoken to Bob Daisley, Aussie's bassist, who's done a lot of work with Gary Moore as well, about playing, because he's written a book on Gary, who he played bass for years, like 20 or 30 years or something. Always, I think even when he was with Aussie, he was always playing with Gary on the side or thereabouts. But when you watch that performance and you look at how accomplished they are as musicians, like, I'll never forget listening to Daniel Johns say for Pedestrian TV, and I've written something about this that's I might have been taken down there because I wrote it for Hot Metal. Remember Hot Metal?
Do you remember Hot Metal?
Well, I wrote for the digital edition, and I did a review of a tribute album. But Daniel Johns said something along the lines of, he didn't want people just to know him for being the guy in Silverchair. Now, I happen to think, alongside of Michael Hutchence and a few others, but Daniel Johns, I think, is easily one of our most talented rock frontmen ever. Australia's, and I don't even like Silverchair, to be honest with you. I'm just saying where talent is. But he just doesn't understand what he's got. You can't deny when Daniel Johns is up on stage there doing his thing, he's captivating, doing what he's doing, especially when he's in the moment. But not the later stuff. He's lost it. He's over here somewhere with the fairies. But when I look at Gary Moore's playing and I see the command of his craft that he has, and Scotty too, but that particular performance, next time, if you ever watch that performance right the way through, look at Gary's face when he's soloing and just look, he's right there, man. He's just present. He's boom. He probably doesn't even know what he's doing, but because he's so into it and he's practiced so well rehearsed, and just that's his thing. He's what Jordan Peterson has said: do something, be the best at it. That's it right there. I mean, you can't get better than that for anything.
No, too true, mate. Those two songs that I talked about for Gary, they ended up being songs from his video called The Emerald Isles, and that was the first time he went back to Ireland. And Bob Daisley's on that one as well. And that's the first time I saw I hadn't heard of Thin Lizzy at that stage, but on that Emerald Isles video, it goes to, talks about a bit of past, because Phil gets up and plays a song, Parisian Walkways, on that when they were in Ireland, and says flashes back to a time when they were playing together in Thin Lizzy, and it goes to a bit of that show, and you see it's at the Opera House, and it's just Gary just doing his thing. And again, everything he did and touched. I mean, I watched that back then. It was VHS so much that it's like a Caddyshack or a Blues Brothers where you know every single word, every single nuance from
yes.
a 90-minute video, and you just sit there and say every word that's happening and sing along and know every move that he's made and every bend and everything that's going on, but still love it as if it's the first time you've watched it, you know? And yeah, it is. And you can't get it on DVD or anything, so you got to watch dodgy, crackly versions on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it's still worth it just to watch it play because
I've got to give YouTube
never
the
got
credit.
close to that. Never got close to that level, and I don't care because I'd rather have, you know, God and me well underneath, well underneath, you know.
Yeah, well, they're aspirational performers, and I think that's why their destiny is to perform for hundreds of millions of people over the time that since they started playing, meaning their live performances are now what I was going to give YouTube credit for. I know we've whacked it beforehand, but there's been so many live performances that I'd heard so much about, like some of those early Southern Sons performances, you know, with Jack Jones and Virgil Donati. And I look at them and I think, oh my God, those guys, because I've spoken to Jack about some of that stuff too. And he's a wicked, you know, he was in the Australian Van Halen show or did some Van Halen covers through the 80s. This is when, this is how good a guitarist this guy is.
He's a freak, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's another guy I want to write a book with, man. Yeah. There's so many of these. I speak to these people and I'm like, man, because a lot of music journalists just sort of touch the surface and talk about the obvious things. They never actually dive into the stuff. The rehearsal rooms, the relationships, the broken guitar strings, as I call it. They don't go into this stuff, the stuff that you and I live and breathe and have done for decades. They don't know how to, and I think that's because they're not musicians and they don't know how do you survive. You mentioned you drove to Seattle from Utah or wherever it was, and
Boise, Idaho.
Sorry, yeah, Boise, Idaho, through a snowstorm, and they're like, we're probably half of that. You were death riding. You thought you were going to die.
Well, there was one part that was a bit dodgy. I mean, we'd stopped on the highway a couple of times because we were behind, you know, those big trucks with the shovels at the front. That was in front of us, just clearing the ice off the road. And eventually, one side, they just slowed down. So we're behind them and slowed down. What's going on? They've gone, too much. We just got to wait. Okay. And that's it. You just wait until they say it's time to go again. But we pulled up. We were getting, you know, you get ice all over the front glass of the van. So we'd pulled up underneath a bridge, like an overpass for the freeway. Yeah. We'd gone underneath so we could chisel the ice off the windscreen, which growing up in Australia is not something you really have to do too often.
We'd never do, yeah.
Ever.
I don't think I've ever done it, yeah.
No, it was pretty weird. But we were there and just doing it. And then there was this car coming in the distance. Yeah, no worries. We're just, you know, watching him while we're doing this. And, you know, if we're sort of here, he's coming from here, and then all of a sudden we see him go a bit sideways. So he's lost it on this highway. And he's just started sliding. And he was getting closer to us and closer to us, and he missed us by about 1.5 feet. And then just kept sliding past us, down the embankment, up the top of the embankment. And honestly, it was the only thing it was luck that he didn't hit us, because he just you can't control it. He's sliding on ice, and he slid easy 100 and something meters and just missed us. So it was just us that where we stopped was exactly the right place to not get hit. Yeah. And you're just going, that's, again, you don't see that in Australia too often. You know, you got to worry about the kangaroos jumping on the highway at sunset. You don't worry about the dude sliding on the ice. You know, but you got a gig to get to. So we were actually late for that gig to Seattle. We were supposed to go on first, but we weren't there yet. So Bucko 9 jumped on and played, and they finished, and we turned up about 10 minutes before to go on, rushed on, jumped on, played, got off, and you just go, we just drove.
Sailed.
We were in the car for 11 hours, and we've just played for 30 minutes. And that was
That's
it.
What's got to be done, though. That's to your point. That's
part
the
of the
gig.
game, mate. Part of the game. Tell you what, the beers tasted fucking real good that night. Thumbs up to Olympus beer, one of the local beers. We were into those that night. That was delightful. It's funny how you remember. I mean, I remember playing at this place because, you know, Nirvana had played there, and that's always nice when you play on the stages where, you know, you go.
Yes.
Either I've played, you know, I mean, in Sydney, growing up in Sydney, the first time I got to play at Selena's was a buzz because I'd seen so many fucking bands there, and all of a sudden you're there going, yeah, this is sweet. I don't belong here, but this is fucking cool. And playing in those sort of venues as well. You know, House of Blues at Boston. Just like, nice. That was a great big room and a good stage, and the crowd was so cool. They're just buzz nights, you know, and yeah, but the drive from Boise is yeah, that was a long way. But again,
But you've got that story, and that's what I'm saying about the sorry to interrupt, but I just need to make this point about, you know, the young musicians locally here in Brisbane who have tried to recruit into a band, and they don't even bother to learn the fucking songs, let alone even think about driving 11 hours across country in a blizzard, mate. That would be hell for them. Like in their cozy little corner of God knows wherever they are, probably a failure to launch situation where they're just haven't moved out of their parents' home and they're 32 or 33 or whatever it might be. That's what I say, young man. That's what I'm talking about. That's not young. I mean,
I thought
32
you were
and
talking about teenagers or something.
look, one of them, I think, no, 20, 21, and I think the eldest is about 30, 32. And I think I had my, like, no, 35 I was when my eldest daughter was born, but I was married, certainly married by the time I was 32, 33. So, yeah, definitely was, because we had our 11th anniversary the other day, a couple of days back. And you just think, like, I wanted to do what you just described. I wanted to be in a van for 11 hours with my comrades, you know, playing, supporting Faith No More or Soundgarden or Living Colour or Megadeth. That's what the dream was. It was always like, imagine doing that and just being, because they were heroes, these people. And to be given the opportunity just to be able to have that experience. It's gone now. I'm too old now. It could never happen, because I think you've got to be young to... Oh, my feelings for me are I have to be young, I think, to do that. I'm sort of going into a different phase of my life, I think, where I just don't find it that attractive anymore. But in my 20s, when I was desperate, mate, living down in Sydney in a band called Velveteen, desperate to try to get a band up off the ground. That was the irony. Back when I had all of the time and the inclination and the energy in the world, couldn't find a band. Velveteen were a great band, but it virtually ended as soon as I got into it. Nothing I did, of course, but it just, you know, the bands are like, mate, they just sort of fall apart, and that happens. But living in Brisbane, the amount of opportunity I've got, there's been so many. And in terms of even taking it further with maybe one or two, I just could never take advantage of it because I was too entrenched in a career, had a mortgage.
Yeah, true.
Exactly to your point, what you said earlier. Jobs, you can't just up and leave, and because it's not the done thing. You can't just leave an account executive role, because who's going to do your job whilst you're not there? It's actually not an essential service, but it's a role where if you're not there, shit can go wrong if you're not there in the day-to-day, and things don't get resolved. It's like you go on holidays, you come back after 2 weeks, there's 2 weeks worth of work there for you waiting. You know, that sort of shit. One of those, you almost don't want to take holidays. That was the gag, you know. Just take sort of an extended weekend and then just deal with Monday's work on the Tuesday, and at least you can sort of catch up.
That's doable. Yeah. Doesn't make you feel like shit.
No, yeah. But I think that's what I hope, you know, with COVID too. It's
funny you mentioned the getting away and things. I mean, doing this tour was only, 4 years ago, and you know, if I was younger touring the States, I'm sure I would have been on the cans and just running amok and just running on empty the whole time. Yeah. Whereas this time we're a bit older. We got fucking long drives in between towns, and I don't want to be hungover for those. Driving a car I'm not familiar with on the wrong side of the road, on a road I've never driven before, in the fucking snow. Yes. I want my wits about me. And so I remember, each night I'd say, oh, we're doing this and this. And I remember putting a post in. We were in Reno, so, the biggest little town in the States, whatever it's called. And, we were staying in a casino. We just played some cool little dive bar. And I'd gone back to my room. I got myself a hot chocolate, and I was just repacking my suitcase to fit things better. And so I just sent a post back to my mates, who wanted to know what I was up to. How's the gig? Oh, good, I'm doing this. And they're all getting the shits. They're going, you're fucking touring the States with punk bands. We want to be living vicariously through you. You're having a hot chocolate and repacking your suitcase. Would you fuck off and go and get back into just go and drink more beers and run around with your shirt off and your pants off or something stupid? And I'm thinking, if it was 15 years ago, you wouldn't have had to tell me to do that. But it's a different phase now. I'm 40-something and I don't want to be hungover and 2 hours sleep and drive.
I couldn't
in
imagine how
these
bad
conditions.
that would be. Yeah, I would. I mean, I'm at a point now where I only drink at home. I don't even drink when I'm out, just because
Yeah, right.
it's first thing. It's more of a control thing in that I just want to be in complete control whenever I'm out. Not that anything weird's happened or anything. It
Yeah,
just, I remember playing the gigs. I mean, look, we're always driving, so you can have sort of two or three. I think we'd have. That was it.
yeah.
That's a
That's
night
it.
out.
It
That's all
is.
you've got.
Yeah. Well, I had my first beers on Friday night since June, and I had maybe five, but I had a Coke or a water in between each one. And I'm
Yeah.
at Nunda, so I'm only 4 stations from the valley. So it's an easy get in, get out. It's not like I've got to, sit in a bus for an hour and a half to get home again. It's very easy and quick to do. And
Not like my
I
$140 Uber fares that I get when I'm on the northern Gold Coast. So Valley to
yeah,
back down to here is about 100. In surge pricing, it can be more.
yeah, that'd suck. That'd be shit. No way.
Christmas time or what have you. But look, it's the thing is though, if I'm going in to watch Metal Church or Watain or whoever it might be, that's when I get on the cans. That's the only because I go in by myself. Because
Mm,
it's the interesting thing. I mean, you know me as a bassist, and I love funk. I do, but I
mm,
tend to all of these bands that I've got a connection with tend to be all these hardcore metal bands, thrash metal
yeah,
bands, and all this sort of stuff. So I don't know anybody who likes them. It's just me.
mm,
So
yeah.
there are a few other crossover bands. So I'll go in by myself and have a few cans, and then I've got to come back and I just look at it because I've gotten to the show for nothing. Often meet the band afterwards. I don't.
Mm,
I have to pay for the beer, but I sort of think, well, the show normally costs about $60, 50 or $60,
mm.
so I can drink that much in alcohol. So that's about 7 or 8, 9 beers, something like that. That's definitely my limit. And then the Uber on the way back, I just go, meh. It happens once every 3 months, so big deal.
It is, and that's honestly the way you got to look at it. Because if you're penny pinching and stuff, I can't afford this. It's like, well, it's a life experience when you get to see these dudes hang out after a gig and get to rub shoulders and talk shit with people that you respect, and you can talk to. And it's a different conversation talking to musos as well. I went and saw a young punk band called Mitch Please, who my favourite song of last year is Polygon Pit, which is one of their songs, and it's just so much fun. It's hilarious. It's unreal. And I bought a T-shirt. I haven't bought a T-shirt at a gig for like 20 years, and I bought one of their shirts because
Sweet.
it was good fun. I love them. Plus, they're young, and I really want to support them a bit. But the guitar player had this custom thing where the frets weren't straight. They sort of went like this in towards the middle, and it was for tonality and some sort of
What the
science
hell?
and
Yeah.
math behind it. And we had a great chat about that for 10, 15 minutes about where he got it from. And he obviously I've asked the question going, why are you playing your chords straight when your frets are like this? And, there was that instant, all right, let's talk muso stuff. And everyone else
Yeah.
was like, well, fucking whatever. And it's a different conversation when you can talk to people who, know that scene or know that sort of vibe
Yeah.
and things. And it was a good chat and it was cool. And, they were good kids. And I told Pete next time Porkers come up, I said, we've got to make sure these kids play with us because they're so much fun. They're great. I love them. Polygon Pit is the song to listen to. It's hilarious. It's so much fun. Again, the whole, is it the most technically brutal song? No, but fuck, it makes me smile. And I can listen to it a ton of times because it just has that energy, has that fun about it. It's just good, fun Brisbane punk song. And yeah, makes me feel good. And that's what music's there
That's
for.
what it's all about. Yeah.
It's so simple. It's so simple.
No worries, mate. Well, look, I'll wrap things up, but
Yeah.
I've already asked you about your socials, man. But thanks heaps for the chat. I've enjoyed it, man. You have been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith. That interview subject was David Gale from the bands The Porkers and Karoshi. Thanks very much for listening.